Chapter 1. Zhonghai City's West District Farmers Market. Bustling pedestrians and vehicles, in the evening, weaved back and forth. Vegetable leaves and dirty water flowed on the ground, all kinds of shop signs with withered paint, and occasionally a few monotonous neon lights were already flashing. Workers going home, children coming home from school, old people buying vegetables, and all kinds of travel-worn passers-by, made this dusky sky seem even more depressing. Perhaps in this kind of international metropolis, this kind of block, is like the most despised stain in people's hearts, only hoping that it never appeared. Near a low wall near the crossroads, there was a man leisurely doing something that others would not think to be very honorable. This was a young man selling mutton skewers, wearing a white vest. His body was full of oil stains and soot. He wore a pair of coffee-colored pants, and a pair of dull blue plastic slippers. The young man's hair was a bit messy, but his slightly mature and handsome face still had regular features. If one looked carefully, there was a hint of a man's aura. Unfortunately, regardless of his appearance, the girls on the street would not look at him, because he was only selling mutton skewers. The young man put a few skewers that had just been grilled to the side. The weather was hot, it was easy to grill, but it was hard to sell, although 50 cents for 2 skewers was already very cheap. But after a whole day, he only earned a dozen yuan, just enough to eat 2 meals. However, the young man's face did not have much depression, but with a trace of satisfaction and leisurely expression. He sat down on the small bench behind him, looking at the busy scene in front of him. This kind of scene seemed to be the most beautiful scenery. "Oldly, the money that you promised 2 days ago should be paid." A duck's neck-like voice suddenly appeared from the side. 3 boys who looked to be less than 20 years old walked over. They were dressed like hooligans. The one in the lead had his hair standing up and a silver metal chain hanging from his neck. His jeans had a few holes in them. His face was a little thin, and he had a cigarette in his mouth. Oldly was a small fry food vendor, next to the young man. Similarly, there was no business in this hot day. He was sitting there worrying. Old Lee's face was bitter. "My young master, please bear with me. It's such a hot day, how am I supposed to pay if there's no business? I say, Old Lee, don't be so shameless. If it weren't for our brother Feng protecting you, your stall would have long since been torn down," one of Li Feng's lackeys threatened and flattered. The hooligan who was called Brother Feng seemed very proud. He grinned and patted the little man who flattered him, then said to Old Li, "Today's protection fee, whether you give it or not, I must get the money. Otherwise, I'll destroy your stall right now." After that, he picked up a skewer of ham sausages, took 2 big bites, and threw the remaining half to the ground. Old Li was at his wits' end. He clenched the small stack of notes in his pocket and decided to spend it like this. That was the money for his wife's medical treatment. How could he have the heart to show filial respect to these ruffians? "I'll help him." The young man who was selling mutton skewers suddenly walked over. He took out a few dry notes from his pants pocket. It added up to no more than 100 yuan. He handed it over and said indifferently, "This is all I have. Old Lee is old and in urgent need of money. You guys should also accumulate some good karma." The hooligan squinted his eyes and laughed. He took the few notes and gave them to the lackeys behind him. "Yang Cheng, you still want to pretend to be a good person. You haven't even paid your own protection fee." Yang Cheng frowned. He sighed in his heart. These little fellows didn't study properly at such a young age. Why did they become hooligans? But he wasn't their father, so it wasn't good for him to say anything. He also didn't want to cause trouble, so he lightly said, "Tomorrow I'll pay it tomorrow." "Okay, I'm not an unreasonable person. Let's cooperate well. I'll protect your business, and you pay me the money. It's only right and proper. I'll come back tomorrow to collect the money." After saying that, the hooligan swaggered off with his 2 followers to scourge other small vendors in other places. At this moment, Old Lee's eyes were already red, and he looked at Yang Chen with some bitterness. "Little Yang, Why do you have to do this? You're always helping me pay those lackeys, how can I ever feel at ease? Oldly, don't say that. When I first came here, I was unfamiliar with this place. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't even have a friend to talk to. You're my benefactor. I'll repay you. You? What can I say about you? Oldly seemed to know that he couldn't change Yang Cheng's mind. He could only silently sigh. Yang Cheng didn't mind and smiled. His smile was very light, but very sincere. He didn't seem to be affected by the extortion just now. Right, how's your wife's illness? Old Li's eyes were full of gratitude. Thanks to you lending me money a while ago for my wife's surgery. Now she just needs to go for a checkup and take some medicine. Oh, that's good. I wish her a speedy recovery. Yang Cheng nodded with satisfaction. Old Li bitterly smiled. Little Yang, the money you lent me, I'll definitely pay you back. If I can't pay you back before I die, I'll let my daughter pay you back. Alas, if it wasn't for me, you could have opened a good store with that 100,000 yuan. You wouldn't need to come here to sell mutton skewers and suffer from those hooligans. Yang Cheng pursed his lips. I quite like this kind of life. Selling mutton skewers is not bad. It's simple and I can get a few meals. I say you. Old Li said somewhat gloomily. Little Yang, you're only 23 or 24 years old. Other young men at your age are either in college or working hard to climb up the social ladder. You don't even have a girlfriend now. Are you going to keep selling mutton skewers? You're not anxious, but I'm anxious just looking at you. Seeing Old Li's sincere concern for him, Yang Cheng unconsciously revealed a bit of bitterness at the corner of his mouth. It wasn't that he wasn't anxious. It was just that he didn't think about it at all. After nightfall, Yang Cheng packed up his stall and pushed the single-wheeled cart back to his rented small dilapidated apartment. This was a small building that had been around for God knows how many years. The monthly rent was only $100. It was only because no one lived here that it was so cheap. Yang Cheng wasn't like others who were worried about the house collapsing. Seeing that it was very cheap, he moved in. The furnishings in Yang Cheng's apartment were very simple. It was almost all second-hand goods that he picked up from the outside. Bed, cabinet, chair, and a television that only CCTV could watch. After pushing the things from the stall into his small room, Yang Cheng looked at the calendar hanging on the wall. He counted the days. After suddenly remembering something, he immediately ran into the toilet. In less than 5 minutes, after taking a cold shower, Yang Cheng walked out of the bathroom naked. His skin was a healthy wheat color with well-proportioned lines. Every muscle on his body wasn't very conspicuous, but upon closer inspection, one could feel a hidden sense of masculinity. Walking to the big wooden cabinet beside the bed, Yang Cheng scratched his wet hair in distress. He looked at the messy clothes inside. After choosing a few, he finally put on a beige shirt and a pair of light linen pants. On his feet, he still wore the same plastic slippers. After leaving the door, Yang Cheng went straight to the busiest commercial street in the West End. It was also the only street in the dilapidated West End that was presentable. It was known as Bar Street. The nightlife of debauchery was already pervasive. Colorful skirts and a variety of perfumes. As soon as he entered Bar Street, the atmosphere of the city swept over. Yang Cheng wasn't like the other youngsters, either brazenly or secretly peeping at those shining white women's thighs on the street while drooling. Instead, he walked straight to the entrance of a bar called Rose. The bar's neon sign was not very dazzling. It could only be considered a medium-sized bar that exuded a somewhat ambiguous atmosphere. The colorful rose-shaped lights dotted the billboard. After entering the bar, Yang Cheng walked to the bar counter in a familiar manner, and sat at the corner of the bar. "Brother Chern, you're here." The young bartender in a black vest smiled warmly when he saw Yang Cheng. At the same time, he handed him a glass of water. "Sister Chiangwei has been waiting for you for a long time." Yang Cheng smiled at him. He took the glass and took a sip. Sister Chiangwei isn't mad, right? I came home a little late, so I'm late. I'm not mad, I'm not mad. The few pimples on little Zhao's round face seemed to be smiling. He whispered to Yang Qing, Brother Chen, teach me when you have time. How did you manage to get Sister Chiangwei? You have to know that the number of men who are interested in our boss in Zhonghai can line up from the west end to the estuary. I've never seen our boss care so much about a man in so many years. But now, she's asked me 5 times whether you're here or not. Don't talk nonsense. Sister Chiangwei and I aren't as complicated as you think. Yang Qing replied faintly and helplessly. Little Zhao had an expression that said, I won't believe it even if you beat me to death. He then sighed, Brother Chen, to be honest, you're really cool. To be able to hook up with an outstanding beauty like our lady boss, which man wouldn't want to stick to her every day? Only you can make a beauty wait for you when it's rare for you to come. That's why there's a saying that the unattainable is the best. This saying also applies to women. Just as little Zhao was bragging like a Casanova, a charming yet dignified voice came from behind him. Little Zhao, how many more times do you think I can deduct your salary? Little Zhao was dumbfounded, as if an electric current had passed through his body. He immediately dodged to the side as soon as he came back to his senses. He continued to pretend to mix drinks seriously as if nothing had happened. However, the cold sweat on his forehead revealed the fear in his heart. Dressed in a modern and magnificent cheongsam, the slit vaguely revealed a charming sexiness from the bottom of her thighs. Her full breasts and slender waist matched with a face that looked like it was meticulously carved into porcelain. Her shoulder-length light purple hair made her look like a young woman from a painting. She leisurely walked in front of Yang Qing. Yang Qing smiled. He looked at the woman without any awkwardness and said sincerely, Sister Chiangwei, you're so beautiful. Happy birthday. Chapter 2. Hearing the praise, Chiangwei's face slightly blushed. She bit her plump lips and said with a tone of remorse, What's the use of being beautiful? It's rare for some people to come and see me, and they still have to come so late on my birthday. Facing the charming woman in front of him, Yang Qing's heart was filled with lust, especially when this woman was looking at him with her soul-stirring eyes without any hint of rejection. But very quickly, Yang Qing's good psychological quality allowed him to suppress his manic heart. He calmed down and said with a smile, I don't drink, and I'm not good at talking to make women happy. Moreover, I run a stall every day, so I don't have much time. Rose glared at Yang Qing with some hidden bitterness. Don't talk to me about these useless things here. What's the point of setting up a stall for mutton skewers? Even if you work yourself to death, you won't be able to make any money. If you really want to make money so desperately, come be my nanny. The monthly salary I'll give you is 100 times more than what you can earn from selling mutton skewers. Yang Qing said with a bitter smile, Big Sister Chiangwei, how can there be a man who wants to be a nanny? How many times have I told you to call me Chiangwei, Big Sister, Big Sister? Am I that old? Chiangwei stared at Yang Qing with her almond-shaped eyes and said in a spoiled manner. Yang Qing could only compromise. Okay, Chiangwei, I was wrong. I just like my current life, and I don't plan to change jobs for the time being. Chiangwei did not give up and said, Then you don't want to be my nanny, but can you be my bodyguard? Or you can come to the bar and be the manager. Anyway, I only come out occasionally to manage, and usually I don't care. Hearing these words, Yang Qing was a little touched. Of course, he knew that the woman in front of him really cared about him, but he had his own position. From the first day he saw Chiangwei, he decided not to have a close relationship with this woman. Forget it, Chiangwei. I think selling mutton skewers is a good idea. There are many nice people in the market. Yang Qing lowered his head and drank water. He was unwilling to talk about this topic. When Chiangwei saw Yang Qing's stubborn temper, she wrinkled her nose at him hatefully and cursed, It would be better if you were my man. What she didn't know was that even she couldn't hear it clearly, but Yang Qing heard it clearly. However, Yang Qing knew that he had to pretend that he didn't hear anything. Although Chiang Wei's face and figure exuded an irresistible charm in the dim light of the bar, from the moment Chiang Wei appeared, even if someone saw her, they only dared to glance at her. No one dared to linger. Some new customers would curiously ask the people around them who Chiang Wei was, and the answer was basically only one. Drink your liquor, don't court death. Chiang Wei felt a little defeated as she walked to the bar and sat next to Yang Qing. She reached out to pour a glass of whiskey for herself, then poured a glass for Yang Qing. She rolled her eyes at Yang Qing and said, "Old cow, I know you're stubborn. But it's fine if you don't want to be by my side. Today is my birthday, can you make an exception and have a drink?" Yang Qing hesitated for a moment. It wasn't that he didn't drink, but every time he drank, the alcohol would make his brain chaotic. There were too many things that he didn't want to remember, so he needed to calm down. And alcohol to him was poison, okay, but only one glass. With a trace of guilt, Yang Qing didn't want to make Chiang Wei too disappointed, so he finally agreed. He silently hoped that such a small glass wouldn't have any effect. As expected, Chiang Wei smiled happily. That smile was like the first clear day after snow. Under the dim light, her face glowed like ivory, which made Yang Qing's heart tremble again. Cheers. After the glass touched, Yang Qing didn't hesitate to raise his head and drink the cold liquid. Chiang Wei giggled. She suddenly leaned forward and stuck to Yang Qing's chest. She said with a sweet voice, "Do you know, I haven't had a birthday for more than 10 years. Although there was no cake, no candles, no gifts, and no party. I feel very satisfied to have a drink with a man like you, who doesn't know how to flirt." The woman in front of him had a voluptuous body, no matter from which angle he looked at it. At this moment, Yang Qing clearly felt two soft and supple lumps pressing against his thighs. As he caressed them, he felt a thrilling pleasure. Slightly lowering his head, Chiang Wei's porcelain snow-white skin was vaguely visible at the split of the cheongsam. Under the curvy calves was a pair of fiery red high heels. The strong visual impact fiercely aroused the male hormones of Yang Qing. When a man saw a woman, the hormone and adrenaline response were the most direct evaluation of a woman. Obviously, Chiang Wei got a high score. Just as Yang Qing was trying to suppress his desire, Chiang Wei finally sat up slowly and smiled at him slyly like a little fox who had succeeded in her plot. "Well, my little man, it seems that your capital is quite strong," Yang Qing smiled bitterly. Of course, he knew what Chiang Wei was talking about. This woman actually peeped at him when she approached. "I think you can't sit still anymore. I'll go entertain the guests. If you really don't want to stay any longer, then leave." Chiang Wei left her seat and walked to the crowd of guests. The guests in the bar knew that the bar's owner was charming, but they didn't dare to lose their composure. After all, they had heard a long time ago that this woman's background wasn't simple. Therefore, Chiang Wei seemed very relaxed when she went to greet the guests. In fact, although Chiang Wei had a warm smile on her face, her extraordinary temperament was enough to intimidate most men. They could only watch from afar and not play with her. Therefore, no one asked for a snub. Seeing that Chiang Wei had left, Yang Qing let out a sigh of relief and secretly mocked himself. After returning to this land for more than half a year, it seemed that he had really changed a lot. If it was in the past, when facing a woman like Chiang Wei who was interested in him, he wouldn't have allowed her to seduce him. He would have thrown her on the bed long ago. Regardless of the consequences, he would just leave after that. However, he couldn't do that now, especially since Chiang Wei was the first woman who could be called a friend in Zhonghai. She was still very important in Yang Qing's heart. Although he only drank a small cup, the alcohol still began to play tricks in his brain. Yang Qing felt that his addiction to alcohol seemed to have been seduced, but he didn't dare to drink too much. Only he knew the pain of letting his imagination run wild after drinking. However, looking at his lower body that was still valiantly erect, Yang Qing felt that it was time to vent some of his emotions. Otherwise, he would really be stifled. Of course, looking for Chiang Wei definitely wouldn't work. Once they had a relationship, it would be difficult for him to get away. After drinking a cup of water, Yang Qing quietly walked out of the rose bar. At the same time he left, Qiangwei, who was silently watching him leave, had a flash of disappointment in her eyes. After walking out of the bar, Yang Qing looked around a little. Finally, he walked into a small bar not far away. Although there was a lot of prey in high-end bars, the money in Yang Qing's pocket was not enough to pay. Since he wanted to live a normal life, of course he had to pay to find a prostitute. Chapter 3. Not long after entering the small bar, Yang Qing knew that he had come to the right place. The small bar was filled with ambiguous and dreamy lights. On the bar counter, in the corner, and even in the middle of the hall, there were pairs of young men and women with their arms around each other's shoulders, hugging each other, and unrestrained laughter came one after another. Yang Qing had only taken a few steps when a woman with heavy makeup, wearing only a rose-colored bra and a super short black leather skirt, stumbled up to him with a glass of amber liquor in her hand. "Handsome, can you buy me a drink?" The woman's voice was very coquettish, enough to make people feel numb. Because he had not touched alcohol for a long time, Yang Qing, who was already a little hot-headed, casually pinched the front bump of the woman's bra. The woman instantly trembled and giggled. "You're so annoying, handsome. Pinching me here as soon as you see me. How are you going to compensate me if you break it?" While complaining, she got closer to Yang Qing, and a pair of white arms had already hooked around Yang Qing's neck. Yang Qing's mouth curved into an evil smile. He did not have much interest in such a woman. It seemed to be light. Yang Qing pushed the woman away from him. "I'm not interested in a sow who only wants to mate when she's drunk and in heat." It seemed that her mind was still somewhat sober. When the woman heard being called so, her blood suddenly rose and she fiercely threw the glass on the ground. "Brat, you're tired of living. Just you wait." After that, she angrily walked toward a group of people in the corner of the bar. Yang Qing's heart suddenly had some malicious pleasure. He had not come to this kind of place to deal with these people for a long time. Today, it seemed that he could use the alcohol to vent. After walking to the bar counter and asking for a glass of vodka, Yang Qing drank it in one gulp. A hot stream of hot air began to roll in his body, and a strange excitement appeared in Yang Qing's eyes. The gorgeously dressed woman called over 7 to 8 men out of nowhere. Each of them had a strong physique, and when Yang Qing finished his glass of wine, they surrounded him. The woman hugged the thick arm of the bald man in front of her, pointed at Yang Qing and screamed, "Brother! It's this bastard who insulted me. Help me beat him to death." When the big man saw Yang Qing's thin body, he revealed a somewhat disdainful look. He signaled his 2 subordinates to teach Yang Qing a lesson. The 2 men grinned and stepped forward. They didn't intend to talk nonsense with Yang Qing. Their fists, which were as big as sandbags, smashed forward. Yang Qing didn't even look at them. His expression was calm as if nothing had happened. He just raised his hands at the right time, and his palms collided with the fists of the 2 burly men. "Ah!" The 2 men screamed at the same time and fell to the ground. They grabbed their arms and rolled on the ground. This scene happened in the bar, which was strange and sudden. Although fights often happened in this small bar, they had never seen Baldy's group suffer a loss. Many people couldn't help but look curiously at Yang Qing. Baldy saw that things were unexpected and couldn't help but frown. He looked suspiciously at Yang Qing, who had a calm expression. He squatted down and lifted the arm of one of his men to examine it. It was fine if he didn't look, but after looking, Baldy's forehead immediately dripped with cold sweat. The few subordinates behind him saw that their own people were beaten and began to curse. But before they could step forward, they were blocked by Baldy's outstretched arm. Not allowing for any explanation, Baldy stood up and bowed to Yang Qing. "Big Brother is magnanimous. This time, we brothers have offended you. If Big Brother needs anything in the future, don't hesitate to call us. We'll meet again." After saying that, Baldy let a few of his baffled brothers carry the two men who were screaming in pain on the ground and walked out of the bar. The woman felt that it was inconceivable. She walked all the way out of the bar and continued to shout. Why didn't he help her vent her anger? The Baldy glared at the woman with his tiger-like eyes and said to his equally confused lackeys, "That man broke the arms of Fifth and Sixth with his two palms just now. Do you think you can beat him?" The few of them suddenly lost their temper. Those two palms were so light, yet they had such strength. If that wasn't an expert, then what was it? Immediately, a few of them began to flatter Baldy, saying that the boss had great foresight and so on. Baldy didn't care about their flattery. Instead, he looked back at the bar thoughtfully. No one knew what he was thinking. At the same time, Yang Qing, who was in the bar, wasn't affected. After seeing Baldy and the others leave, the corner of the bar became empty. He slowly walked over, planning to search for tonight's prey. Because Yang Qing easily defeated Baldy and his men, the men and women in the bar were afraid of him. Occasionally, a few hot girls would try to flirt with Yang Qing, but they were ignored, so they could only give up on seducing him. Just as Yang Qing was about to sit on the sofa, he suddenly found that there was someone lying on the bench in the corner. It was a young woman. With just one glance, Yang Qing's eyes became hot under the dim light. Her silky black hair fell from the sofa to the carpet. She wore a tight white dress that wrapped around her graceful curves, like a gentle wave. After getting a little closer, Yang Qing smelled a tempting body fragrance mixed with jasmine and alcohol. The woman seemed to be a little drunk. One of her white hands was holding a goblet. Her body was lying on the sofa, twisting a few times from time to time. Her plump but outlined a charming curve. Yang Qing walked forward and reached out to help the woman up. He pushed aside the messy hair in front of the woman's forehead, revealing a charming face filled with drunkenness. What made Yang Qing flabbergasted was that this woman's appearance was even prettier than the Rose he met earlier. No matter if it was her exquisitely sculpted appearance, or the coldness and coquettishness she exuded after getting drunk, it was enough to make any man fall for her. However, such an alluring beauty caused Yang Qing to be puzzled. Could a woman like this be a prostitute from a nightclub? But if she wasn't a prostitute, how could she be drunk with that group of people and have a face full of lust? The woman seemed to be drunk to the extreme. Without waiting for Yang Qing to think, she grabbed Yang Qing's shirt collar and two thin and delicate red lips that were like flowers kissed him. But because she couldn't find the right direction, the woman only kissed Yang Qing's cheek before sliding down again. Yang Qing was stimulated by the ice-cold yet soft touch on his face, causing his blood to boil. Looking at the beautiful lady in front of him with a watery expression, with an alluring look that seemed like he was waiting to be plucked, he originally planned to let her have her way for one night. Why would he care so much? He hugged the soft and delicate body in his arms and kissed the woman's fragrant lips fiercely. The woman let out a low moan. It seemed that she was resentful for Yang Qing's barbarism, but it also seemed that she was excited for the lingering between their tongues. Chapter 4. When the morning sun shone through the mottled glass window into Yang Qing's room, Yang Qing shook his head in a daze. Just as he was about to get up, he suddenly felt something soft wrapped around his body. Yang Qing, who was instantly sober, looked down. It was indeed the woman he brought home last night after getting drunk. At this moment, the woman's white lotus-like arms were wrapped around his waist. Under the towel, a pair of plump breasts were pressed against his thighs. The delicate touch was as smooth as velvet. A pair of white and tender thighs were unscrupulously wrapped around his lower body. The seductive cleavage that was faintly exposed still had traces of last night's indulgence. Paired with the innocent and pure face of the woman who was sleeping soundly, Yang Qing couldn't help but sigh. Among all the women he had seen in his life, this woman definitely had the ability to enter the top 3. Just as Yang Qing was sighing over this heaven-bestowed artwork of a woman, the corner of his eyes suddenly swept over. There was a pool of dried red blood on the sheets at the end of the bed. The strings in his heart were stirred. Yang Qing frowned as he looked at the still indifferent woman. He was a bit surprised. Of course, this blood wasn't from him. He just didn't expect that the beauty who was so crazy last night was actually a virgin. A lot of things could be understood at a glance after thinking about it. Yang Qing quickly figured out that the woman's initiative and indulgence last night was most likely because she was drugged by the Baldy and the others. If it wasn't for a freak combination of factors, this black-haired beauty would have become the prey of the Baldy and the others. It was also because he drank too much last night and didn't notice anything strange when he got home and went to bed. Just as Yang Qing was sitting on the bed thinking about how to deal with it, the woman lying on top of him finally woke up. The woman opened her eyes in a daze. She raised her head and saw Yang Qing looking at her with an indifferent expression. The man in front of her was very strange, but also very familiar. Her mouth and nose were full of a strong male body odor and some kind of lascivious aura. She tried her best to figure out what was going on, and the scene from last night appeared in her mind intermittently. The woman quickly understood what was going on. After knowing that she was not a prostitute, Yang Qing was very curious about what this woman would do. Would she scream? Beat and scold? Call the police? Or was it extortion? If that was the case, Yang Qing wouldn't feel any guilt at all. She could do whatever she wanted. If it wasn't for him, she would have suffered the baptism of a group of men. She could only blame herself for being careless and entering the wolf area by mistake. However, the woman's reaction was surprisingly calm. She slowly sat up. Under the faint sunlight, he took off the blanket and revealed a sexy body that looked like it was carved out of white jade. The visual impact made Yang Qing breathe deeply. There were also red marks of being bitten and slapped on her body. There were even some sticky marks left by some men that would make one's imagination run wild. The woman got off the bed without any awkwardness. She was completely naked, and even the grass between her legs could be easily seen. But it was this kind of indifference and calmness that made Yang Qing suddenly feel a little depressed. After taking a deep breath, he said, "I'm sorry." The woman was turning around to put on her clothes. When she heard these 3 words, she couldn't help but pause, but she didn't reply or turn around. She continued to put on her clothes. Yang Qing didn't say anything more, but his heart felt like it was pressed by a stone, and he couldn't breathe. It had been many years since he felt this kind of guilt just because he slept with a woman. In those years in the past, most of the time, women were just medicine for healing. They couldn't be considered as the same kind with thoughts at all. Suddenly being disturbed by a woman who had spent a night with him filled his heart with complicated feelings of guilt. Yang Qing wondered if he had relaxed for too long and his brain had short-circuited. In less than 5 minutes, the woman had already put on her clothes and slightly tidied up her appearance so that no one could see anything strange. Then, without a word, he walked towards the door. Seeing that she left without saying a word, Yang Qing couldn't help but say, "Do you know the way? Do you need me to send you off?" The woman didn't even pause this time. She walked out the door on her own and closed the door behind her. Yang Qing stared blankly at the closed door and couldn't help but smile bitterly. This woman was the best he had ever seen in his life. But just as he was about to get up, Yang Qing, whose hearing was extraordinary, still heard a sob coming from the corridor. It seemed that she was still crying, but she didn't want him to see or hear it. Unfortunately, she didn't know that his hearing was far better than ordinary people, so she still couldn't avoid him. At the thought of the woman holding back her tears for a period of time, the guilt in Yang Qing's heart grew stronger. After tidying up a little, Yang Qing remembered that he still had to open a lamb stall. Although that stall didn't earn much from it, he had always liked to watch people come and go in the midst of trouble, and the feeling of the world's various forms. Money didn't matter to him. After pushing the wheelbarrow to his stall, Old Li, who was selling fried ham, smiled at Yang Qing. "Little Yang, you're late today. You didn't go on a date yesterday, did you?" Yang Qing said in his heart that he didn't go on a date, but he did go to bed. He lightly replied, "How could that be? Don't think too much. I slept with her." Oldly smiled and said with some satisfaction, "My family's Jingjing finished her internship and went home. Yesterday, she told me that she will remember Little Yang's kindness. If it weren't for you, my family would have to pay for my wife's treatment and give Jingjing money to go to a faraway place for her internship." Old Li's daughter, Li Jingjing, was the daughter of the old couple when they were old. They treasured her very much. After graduating from college, she went to a company in another city for 2 months before returning home. Yang Qing had seen the girl twice. She was a typical pretty girl from a small family in Jiangnan. But she was his friend's daughter, so he wouldn't have any ideas about her. "Oh, what kindness! When I don't have money to eat in the future, just let me eat," Yang Qing joked. "Okay." Old Li suddenly nodded. "I would have forgotten if you didn't mention it. My wife and Jingjing both said that they would invite you to our house for dinner to thank you. Tonight it is. There's no need. Your family is also struggling. Why would you invite me to dinner?" Old Li pretended to be angry and said, "How expensive can a meal be? It's just a simple meal. Little Yang, if you don't go, you'll look down on our family." Yang Qing was helpless. He couldn't change the stubborn old man's mind. He could only nod and agree. Old Li beamed with joy. But right at this moment, a few hoodlum silhouettes once again appeared in the midst of the disturbance. Seeing Yang Qing and Old Li, the leading hoodlum evilly laughed. Chapter 5. Yang Qing, did you prepare the money I asked you to prepare yesterday? My brothers are waiting to get the money to eat and drink. Chen Feng said with a strange smile as he twirled the silver chain in his hand. Old Li panicked and stood in front of Yang Qing and shouted, "Chen Feng, don't go too far. Even if your father is the boss of this area, what right do you have to collect protection fees?" Boss Chen said that those who don't open a shop don't have to pay protection fees. Do you think we don't know that? Chen Feng's father, Chen Dihai, was one of the leaders of the underworld in the Western District. Otherwise Chen Feng would not collect protection fees so unscrupulously. Hearing Old Li use his father to pressure him, Chen Feng's eyes flashed coldly. "Old thing, who do you think you are? Do you think I'm afraid of you just because you mention my father? That's my father, not your grandson. I collect protection fees because I think highly of you. Don't refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit." You. Old Li realized that he almost offended Boss Chen. After all, they were father and son, what did he count as? But he just couldn't swallow this anger. Just as he wanted to say a few words for Yang Qing, he was pulled by Yang Qing from behind. Yang Qing frowned, and rubbed his forehead as if he had a headache. After pulling Old Li back, he indifferently said to Chen Feng, "You're called Chen Feng, right? I'll call you Brother Feng. Don't look for trouble, I'm someone who hates trouble. But I don't have money today, I'll give it to you in a few days. You can go back first." "Hey!" One of the lackeys laughed. "Brother Feng, this kid thinks he's the boss? We'll go back just because he tells us to?" The other hooligans also laughed wildly, and even shouted, "Teach this kid a lesson." Chen Feng also seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world, but in his heart, he was really angry at Yang Qing's word. He laughed evilly and said, "Yang Qing, if you have the guts to say it again, believe it or not, I'll cut off your tongue." At the end of the sentence, there was a hint of ruthlessness. Yang Qing's impatient expression suddenly became a little cold. He looked at Chen Feng with a complicated gaze and said, "Do you know what I hate the most?" What? Without waiting for Chen Feng to finish his question, Chen Feng suddenly felt his body flying through the air. Then, at the same time that he felt a twisting pain in his abdomen, his body slammed into a pile of garbage by the roadside with a bang. Vegetable leaves and fish scraps had corroded his body, and his clothes were soaked in the rancid water. "I hate being threatened the most." With a casual push, Yang Qing stood at Chen Feng's original position and retracted his outstretched palm. Chen Feng was knocked senseless by the push and the impact. His mouth and nose were filled with the smell of fresh blood. At the same time, the rotting smell of the garbage entered his nostrils, causing him to retch instantly. "Stinking brat, you dare hit our brother Feng? Are you tired of living? Beat him to death." Before the hoodlums could understand the situation, they saw their boss being beaten up. Relying on their numbers, they didn't think too much about how Yang Qing did it. They swarmed over like a swarm of bees. Yang Qing was also too lazy to look. No matter how they punched and kicked, he just caught them with his palm and dragged them to the roadside. The hoodlums only felt that their hands or feet were clamped by a huge force. Their bodies were thrown into the air uncontrollably. Immediately after, they slammed into the hard concrete floor, crying out in pain. Everyone saw that not even half of Yang Cheng's hair was hurt. They finally knew that they couldn't beat him. Even Chen Feng, who had just climbed out of the garbage, was sweating profusely. He had seen the methods of some retired Special Forces soldiers in his father's hands. Those people were all his father's trump cards. When they fought, they could easily fight against 10 people. But even those few people didn't have such great strength and speed. In an instant, 5 or 6 people were thrown into the air as easily as throwing cats and dogs. Although these hoodlums didn't practice martial arts, they grew up fighting all day long. How could an average person beat them? "Let's go." Although Chen Feng was so angry that his teeth itched, he couldn't care less about his face. At this moment, when he saw Yang Chen's calm face, it was as if he had seen a ghost. He hurriedly called his lackeys and ran away. Old Li and some of the onlookers saw Yang Cheng's skills and cheered. These hoodlums were used to being domineering. The hawkers all feared them. Today, Yang Cheng's actions naturally helped them vent their anger. However, these people didn't dare to get too close to Yang Cheng. After all, Chen Feng wasn't scary. But if Chen Feng's father, Chen Dihai, came to deal with Yang Cheng, they were worried that they would be implicated. Old Li was extremely excited. "I say, Xiao Yang, I didn't expect you to be so skilled. Did you learn martial arts before?" I learned a little." Yang Qing didn't want to say much. In fact, if it weren't for Chen Feng pushing him too far and offending him, he wouldn't have made a move in the downtown area. However, as he told Chen Feng, he had his own principles. He hated being threatened. Perhaps this kind of quirk, no matter how much he wanted to live a low-key life, he couldn't erase it. Because he had the dignity of a strong person. Old Li saw that Yang Qing didn't say much and didn't ask anymore. He started to worry and said, "Xiao Yang, now that you've beaten Chen Feng back, what will you do if he calls his father Chen Dihai? You have to know that Chen Dihai is one of the 2 big gangs in the West District. He's an important figure in the West Union Society. No one dares to provoke him." West Union Society. Yang Qing didn't care and smiled. He suddenly asked Old Li, "Do you have a cigarette?" Old Li saw that Yang Qing didn't care and could only worry. Hearing that Yang Qing wanted a cigarette, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. "Kid, didn't you say you wanted to quit smoking?" "Forget it, I'm not quitting. I'm not used to not having a cigarette after beating people up." Yang Qing sighed in his heart. He didn't expect Chen Dihai to be a member of the West Union Society. Originally, he didn't want to have anything to do with these people. That's why he didn't want to have any contact with Jiangwei. But he didn't expect that he would be the first to stand on the front line. Old Li took out a pack of 150 yuan orchids from his pocket and lit one for Yang Qing. People are poor, so they choose the cheapest. This cigarette is strong, so you can smoke it. Hiss. Yang Qing inhaled in extreme pleasure. He grinned and said, "That's right, I want it strong. Young people should smoke less. It's bad for your body." Old Li kindly advised with a smile. Yang Qing smiled faintly. In his heart, he thought, if smoking can harm my body, then all my years of training would have been wasted. After the 2 of them rested, they started to busy themselves with their business. Yang Qing also started to heat up the lamb skewers. He started to grill the raw ones over charcoal. He even had a skewer in his mouth. He treated it like he was eating breakfast. Although the entire work was dirty, he did it with relish. From time to time, he would grin at the surrounding peddlers. But not long after, a police car drove over. 2 policemen and a police officer wearing a white shirt jumped out. They walked in front of Yang Qing with a serious expression. The leading police officer asked coldly, "You are Yang Qing?" Chapter 6. When the police appeared, the surrounding people had already gathered and whispered to each other about whether Yang Qing was going to be unlucky. "Well, it's me." Yang Qing raised his head in confusion. He didn't understand why the police were looking for him. Could it be that the domestic authorities found him? That's not right. If that was the case, they should have sent a secret special force, and they should have launched a surprise attack at night. How could it be 3 little policemen? The police officer showed his identification and said coldly, "I'm Captain Feng Biao of the Western District Police Station. Someone has accused you of fighting and murdering a teenager. I'm taking you back to the police station immediately to assist in the investigation." So that's what happened. Yang Qing suddenly understood. It seemed that Chen Feng, who was beaten away, had a crooked brain. The underworld actually asked the police to do something. Old Li, who was at the side, was anxious. He quickly came forward to explain, "Police comrade, you arrested the wrong person. That was Chen Feng and a few punks who came to collect protection fees. Yang Qing was protecting himself just now." "Humph, we will naturally investigate clearly whether we arrested the wrong person or not. I only saw Boss Chen's son being beaten until he vomited blood. I didn't see this guy getting hurt." After Feng Biao finished, he ignored Old Li and waved his hand for 2 policemen to come forward and detain Yang Qing. Yang Qing didn't resist. After being handcuffed, he just sighed slightly and said to Old Li, "Don't worry. I didn't do anything wrong. It's not a big deal. Help me look after my lamb stall. If I don't come back when it's late, help me push it back home. Don't talk nonsense. Go." Feng Biao said sternly. Old Li still wanted to say something, but he knew that he couldn't help much. He could only sigh bitterly as he watched Yang Qing being arrested by the police and put into the car. After Feng Biao and others left with Yang Qing, the surrounding peddlers began to curse. It was nothing more than the police and the underworld leader colluding, and the government and the bandits are one family. However, they didn't dare to say these words in front of the police. After being taken to the police station, Yang Qing was immediately pulled into the interrogation room. In this extremely solemn room, Yang Qing looked around curiously. To be honest, he had entered the police station many times before, but this was the first time he entered as a criminal. Feng Biao called 2 strong police officers into the room and sneered, "Look at your relaxed look, you still have time to look around this room. I'll come back to see you later and see if you're still in the mood." After that, he closed the iron door and walked out. Yang Qing didn't mind and sat down. He calmly looked at the 2 policemen who were also sitting in front of him. They were looking at him like he was their prey. A bearded policeman began to interrogate him. "Name?" "Yang Qing." "Gender?" "Male." Yang Chen answered with a smile on his face. "Age?" 24. "Birthplace?" "Zhonghai." After a series of simple and irritating questions, Yang Qing was still calm and collected as he answered. Even the most retarded questions were answered happily. Instead, the 2 policemen were a little irritated. After all, they were instructed by Feng Biao to find a reason to teach Yang Qing a lesson. Now that Yang Qing was so cooperative, he was worthy of being a model suspect. How could they find a reason to make him suffer? Finally, another dark-skinned policeman came up with an idea and asked, "Today, you beat up 6 teenagers in the market. Is this true?" "I didn't beat them up. They wanted to ask me for protection fees. They extorted me first. I have the right to protect myself," Yang Qing replied. "I don't know if they charged you for protection fees, but you made the first move, didn't you?" the bearded policeman asked with a grin. Yes. Yang Qing nodded honestly. But I don't think it's my fault. At most, I can go to court with them. Court. A mutton skewer seller. The dark-skinned policeman muttered in disdain. He took out a document and pointed at the signature column. Write your name here to show that you admit your guilt and compensate the victims. Yang Qing glanced at it. It was a prepared confession. All the charges added together were enough to put him in jail for half his life. Yang Chen's expression became playful. He sneered and said, Officer, I don't think this thing is legal. I haven't even said anything yet. Why are there so many crimes suddenly added to it? The dark-skinned policeman slammed the table. You're questioning us now? You think we framed you? Do you know where you are right now? I'm just telling the truth. Yang Qing understood that the two of them were determined to make him commit a crime. He couldn't help but reveal a hint of coldness in his eyes. The two policemen naturally knew that Yang Qing wouldn't sign this document. As long as a normal person could read, he wouldn't put himself in jail for half his life for no reason. There was only one reason to use this document. It was to provoke Yang Qing. Obviously, they did it. Kid, you're not cooperating with our investigation. Do you know what the consequences are? The bearded man stood up and slowly walked behind Yang Qing. He clenched his fists so hard that his bones were cracking. Yang Qing glanced at the monitor in the room. He reckoned that only the scene of him talking back to the police would be shown, while the rest of the matter wouldn't be known by outsiders. Even if they knew, who would easily spread the news of a police station? It seemed that there were police officers with this kind of appearance everywhere in the world. I don't know what the consequences will be for me, but for the two of you, there will definitely be consequences that you can't imagine. Yang Qing casually turned his head and grinned at the bearded policeman. You're looking for death. Seeing that Yang Qing finally had words that offended the police, the bearded policeman suddenly reached out and tried to grab Yang Qing's collar. His other hand clenched into a fist and was about to smash down. But at this moment, the bearded man's hand grabbed empty air. He saw that Yang Qing had unknowingly stood up from his seat and reached out to grab the bearded man's collar. You want to do this, right? Yang Qing smiled evilly and punched the bearded man's stomach. The bearded man's body spasmed as he curled up on the ground and twitched. The black-faced policeman stood up angrily. You dare to attack a police officer. As he said this, he didn't care about anything else. He pulled out a Type 54 pistol from his waist and aimed at Yang Qing. But Yang Qing simply did not care about the pitch-black muzzle. With a lightning-fast step, he moved behind the dark-faced policeman in a flash. His finger lightly tapped on the dark-faced policeman's arm. As if his arm was electrocuted, it violently trembled, and the Type 54 pistol in his hand immediately fell to the ground. The black-faced policeman didn't even have time to react. He felt a numbness at the back of his neck, and then he fainted. Yang Qing picked up the illegal document from the table and smiled strangely. It seems like you guys use this kind of trick often. I don't know what will happen if this gets leaked. Chapter 7. Hearing Yang Qing say that he was going to release the evidence, the bearded policeman, who was still sober, suddenly broke into a cold sweat. You! How dare you! Do you know who you have offended? That is Boss Chen's son. Boss Chen's people can kill 18 generations of your ancestors. The bearded man roared, but the pain in his body made him unable to stand up. Yang Chen's face instantly turned cold. Boss Chen again? You people are all failures. Don't you know that I hate being threatened the most? With that said, he rushed forward and kicked the bearded man again. This kick directly caused the bearded man to faint. Bang! Suddenly, the interrogation room's iron door was pushed open, and a figure rushed in. Stop! A clear and strict voice came into his ears. Yang Qing turned around, puzzled. When he saw the person, his eyes lit up. She was a heroic-looking policewoman with shoulder-length hair. Her almond-shaped eyes were like autumn waters, her nose was high, and her lips were plump and covered with a light pink lipstick. At first glance, she looked like a Japanese or Korean celebrity who had undergone plastic surgery. However, upon closer inspection, one could feel the heroic spirit exuding from her bones. She was several times more beautiful than those so-called celebrities. She could be considered a beautiful policewoman through and through. But then, Yang Qing saw that on the policewoman's shoulder badge, there were 2 four-cornered stars, which was the symbol of a second-class police supervisor. In a flash, Yang Qing understood that this young and beautiful policewoman, who looked like a movie star, was actually the bureau chief of the Western District Police Station, a real cadre of Huaxia country. At that moment, Choi Yun was in a bad mood. She had just finished a meeting and was having a headache about the recent bank robbery case in the Western District. Then, she heard someone report that in her own police station's interrogation room, there was a suspect beating up a police officer. This was definitely a contempt for her authority. "You put your hands behind your head and lean against the wall." Choi Yun pointed at Yang Qing and shouted. Yang Qing looked up and down for a while, sighing in his heart that uniforms were indeed good stuff. No wonder so many of the people around him in the past would let their female companions wear all kinds of uniforms before doing work. At this moment, when he heard the female bureau chief's order, he couldn't help but smile. "Beautiful bureau chief, I think it's better for you to first take a look at this." Saying that, he threw the document in his hand to the policewoman. Choi Yun wasn't a reckless person. Otherwise, she wouldn't have become the chief of the West Side Police Department at such a young age, no matter how strong her background was. Therefore, when she saw Yang Qing's calm expression, she felt that something was different. Puzzled, she picked up the document and glanced at it a few times. Gradually, a layer of frost covered Choi Yun's handsome and beautiful face. After she glanced at the bearded man and the dark-faced police officer lying on the ground, she said to Yang Qing coldly, "Sir, what's your name?" "My surname is Yang and my name is Qin. I'm Choi Yun, the bureau chief of the West Side Police Department. I apologize to you for my subordinate's mistake. However, you've beaten up a law enforcement officer, so you have to be detained first. You have the right to remain silent, and you also have the right to ask a lawyer to defend you. If no one is willing to bail you out, you'll need at least 48 hours before you can be released." After Choi Yun finished speaking, she didn't wait for Yang Qing to say anything. She immediately ordered a few police officers to carry the 2 unconscious people out of the room. Then, she looked at Yang Qing with a complicated expression and slammed the metal door shut. Yang Qing blankly watched a group of people come and go, but he was still locked inside. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. "Asking for a lawyer, asking for someone to bail me out, I don't even have a phone number. Who can I ask? It seems that I'll have to stay in the small room for 48 hours. Outside the room, Choi Yun looked at Feng Biao, who was drenched in cold sweat. She frowned and said, "Captain Feng, I will truthfully report your matter at the end of the month evaluation. Good luck to you." After she finished speaking, she left Feng Biao, whose legs were weak, and walked back to the office. After returning to the office, Choi Yun didn't stop to rest. Although she hadn't been a police officer for many years, her keen sense of smell had always allowed her to solve many big cases. This time, she also smelled something different. From this young man named Yang Qing, she actually felt an inexplicable sense of oppression. But that guy was clearly smiling so harmlessly. What was she afraid of? Choi Yun was arrogant. She liked the feeling of having everything under control, so she immediately began to mobilize the resources in her hands to search for files about Yang Qing. Soon, Yang Qing's resume was pulled up by Choi Yun. There was unexpectedly little information about Yang Qing. Choi Yun only took a few glances and realized that there were too many strange things in this resume. At the age of 5, separated from parents, was taken abroad by human traffickers. Was adopted by a kind couple. At the age of 23, graduated with a master's degree in marketing management from Harvard University in the United States, returned to China in the same year. At the end of this simple and crude resume, there was actually a photo of Yang Qing and Drew Foster, the female president of Harvard University, in the school. Harvard's iconic red building complex, eye-catching school emblem, Yang Qing's face was scholarly, and he was smiling brightly with Foster. Of course, the photo in the police's database would not be photoshopped, but Choi Yun still felt that she had been fooled. To hell with a master's degree from Harvard. If he really graduated from Harvard, would he be selling mutton skewers in the market? Also, if he was adopted by a kind couple, what happened after that? There were still more than 10 years in between. How did he jump straight to graduating from university? But very quickly, Choi Yun calmed down. Of course, no one would arbitrarily change the police's database. Every person's information was put in by the authorities themselves. Since Yang Qing's information, which was obviously full of loopholes and extremely ridiculous, still existed, then there must be a reason for it. But why would the higher-ups of the police station put such a resume in? Choi Yun quickly thought of two possibilities. First, Yang Qing's identity was very special, belonging to the state's secret personnel, such as a security bureau agent. Second, Yang Qing's identity was also very special, but he was a special person that the state did not want people to know. Choi Yun quickly ruled out the first possibility. If he was a security bureau agent, then the information should be detailed and impeccable, so that it would not be easy to arouse suspicion. Therefore, Yang Qing could only be a very special person, so that the higher-ups were not willing to say it, nor would they deliberately cover for him. They only treated it as an empty shell. It was undeniable that Choi Yun was not only a police officer, but also a beauty. More importantly, she was a woman full of curiosity. For a person with such an identity, Choi Yun was naturally interested. Almost in an instant, in Choi Yun's heart, Yang Qing had become a great thief, an international wanted criminal, a big drug lord in the Golden Triangle, a mad scientist, and other identities. One thing was certain, Bureau Chief Kai was interested in Yang Qing. Just as Choi Yun was thinking about how to investigate the background of this suspicious person, there was a knock on the door. "Come in." A young police officer with a fair face entered the door with a flattering smile. In the hearts of the police officers, their bureau chief was not only a super beauty, but also a character like Master Annihilation. They reported in a low voice, "Bureau Chief, Lawyer Zhang from Qingdong Law Firm is here to bail out the prisoner named Yang Qing." Chapter 8. When Yang Qing walked out of the police station with a bit of confusion, he couldn't figure out why a lawyer he didn't know would come to bail him out, and from the attitude of the police station, this lawyer's background was extremely deep. At the entrance of the police station, the grizzled lawyer Zhang, wearing gold-rimmed glasses, solemnly shook hands with Choi Yun. "Thank you for Bureau Chief Kai's cooperation. It's rare for Bureau Chief Kai to be able to sit as the head of the Western District Police Station at such a young age. You are indeed magnanimous." At the moment, Choi Yun's face was reserved and solemn. Her pretty face maintained a frosty and formal smile. "Lawyer Zhang is an old senior in the entire Zonghai lawyer community. We, as the younger generation, of course have to pay special attention and treat you with courtesy." Although she was talking to Lawyer Zhang, Choi Yun's eyes couldn't help but glance at Yang Qing, who was stretching on the side. Choi Yun didn't expect that Lawyer Zhang would suddenly come to bail Yang Qing out. Although Lawyer Zhang wouldn't say who the employer behind him was, to be able to invite this old qualified lawyer, it was definitely a big shot in Zonghai City. That kind of person would actually come forward for Yang Qing, a mutton skewer seller in the market. It seemed that her guess was absolutely correct. Yang Qing's background was not ordinary. After exiting the police station courtyard, Yang Qing had a modest smile on his face as he said to Lawyer Zhang, "Thank you, great lawyer, for your help. Otherwise I would have to stay in the interrogation room for 2 days. You don't know this, but I promised to visit a friend's house tonight. What a headache." Looking at Yang Cheng's awkward smile, Lawyer Zhang was a bit curious. He originally didn't understand why that person would ask him to bail this young man out, but now that he saw it, there was indeed something unusual about him. Just from the indifference in the police station, the calmness after coming out, and even having the time to joke around, such a young man definitely had an extraordinary bearing. Putting away his contempt, Lawyer Zhang laughed. Mr. Yang doesn't need to thank me, I was entrusted with a task, the person to thank is in front. Following the direction Lawyer Zhang pointed, Yang Qing suddenly saw a red car parked on the side of the road. Yang Qing only took a glance and suddenly became interested. The car turned out to be a rare domestic Bentley Elegance. This kind of British car represented a kind of graceful royal temperament. The lowest price in Huaxia country was more than 4 million. To be able to casually drive such a car on the road, it would be nonsense if one didn't have hundreds of millions of wealth. After saying goodbye to Lawyer Zhang, Yang Qing leisurely swung to the side of the Bentley, slightly looked into the driver's seat, and couldn't move his eyes, lightly smiled. "It's you!" On the pure black leather seat, a city beauty wearing a pure white muslin dress was sitting with her face as clear as water. Her black hair was neatly tied up and she wore a pair of large crystal sunglasses on her delicate and beautiful face, covering half of her pretty face. Yang Qing with the Qing, can that of the Bentley, is of Hua, not look at her of of her. Beauty, the window was lowered. The beauty didn't even look at Yang Qing. She said lightly, "Get in the car." Yang Qing did not stand on ceremony. After he got into the car with a smile, he adjusted the seat's height and spaciousness with a warm expression on his face, as if he had met an old friend. "You left just like that in the morning. I was curious if I could see you again. I didn't expect you to come to the police station so soon to bail me out. Is this fate?" This beauty was the strange woman who had just had a one-night stand with Yang Qing. Yang Qing saw that her face was as cold as frost at the moment, and his mind recalled the two of them that night. They were completely different people, and he couldn't help but have a bit of a joke. "No one will think you're mute if you don't speak." Without talking nonsense with Yang Qing, the woman stepped on the accelerator, and the car quickly left the police station. About 10 minutes later, it stopped at a coffee shop next to the West City Square. Walking past the huge fountain, Yang Qing followed the silent woman into the coffee shop. It seemed that they had booked a small private room. Following the waiter's guidance, the two came to a secluded corner on the second floor. Several large green plants blocked the surroundings, making it quiet and quiet. "Miss Lin, sir, what would you like to drink?" the polite waiter asked with a smile. It seemed that they were regular customers. Taking off the sunglasses, revealing the stunning face that would make most men's blood boil, the woman surnamed Lin said lightly, "Blue Mountain, milk, no sugar." Yang Qin flipped through a few pages of the menu, frowning as he pondered. Grinning, he said, "Let's have a cup of chrysanthemum tea to cool down the heat. I don't want the best, the cheapest kind." The smile on the waiter's face froze, and he replied awkwardly, "Sir, we are a coffee shop, we don't have tea, and we don't have chrysanthemum tea, then a cup of water, does water cost money?" Yang Qing asked in distress. We do have water, but sir, do you really only need water?" The way the waiter looked at Yang Qing was a bit strange. He seemed to be unable to understand that a friend who came with a goddess-like character would be a customer ordering a cup of water. The woman who had been looking out the window with indifference suddenly glanced at Yang Qing and said to the waiter, "Give him a cup of Naples, American style." "Yes, Miss Lin." The waiter hurriedly left as if he had been granted amnesty. Yang Qing, however, had a sorrowful expression. "I say, Miss, your surname is Lin, right?" "Miss Lin, I don't have money. Why don't you give me a cup of Naples for a few $100s? My mutton skewers can sell for a few thousand." "I'll treat you." Frowning, the woman said impatiently, "It's not a matter of whether you treat me or not, it's just that my income doesn't allow me to drink this level of coffee. Besides, I'm an able-bodied, non-illiterate man. How can I covet a girl's coffee? You have to know, although my family is poor, I'm still a decent person, not a swindling hoodlum. If I want to drink coffee, of course I have to earn money to drink it, but the truth is, I don't really like drinking coffee. I'm the one treating you, not you covet it. The woman said, as if she was on the verge of collapse. She took a step back and said so much nonsense when treating someone to a cup of coffee. However, Yang Cheng's face was serious as he solemnly said, Miss Lin, the ancients said that a gentleman doesn't eat food given out of pity. This is your charity to me. It's fine if you look down on my income, but you look down on my social status. That's right, I'm a mutton skewer vendor. But you can't insult my character and trample on my self-esteem. Enough! Beauty Lin slammed the table and stood up, her full chest rising and falling. Are you done or not? I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. As soon as she said that, the chattering Yang Qing immediately stopped. As if he had changed into a different person, a proud smile appeared on his face. Miss Lin, that's right. You're young, so you should be more emotional. Don't always put on a straight face. I think your angry expression is much prettier than your cold one. You. Completely lacking the demeanor of a virtuous lady, Beauty Lin sat back on her seat. A pair of beautiful, sparkling eyes stared at Yang Qing. I don't have time to listen to your nonsense. Right now, I have something to talk to you about. Chapter 9. Say it, what's the matter? As Yang Qing spoke, he placed one of his legs on the leather seat, took off his rubber slippers, and used one hand to scratch his foot. When the weather was hot, it was easy to itch. Yang Qing was considering if he should buy some ointment to apply. Seeing this scene, Lin Ruoshi, who was about to speak, paused. She subconsciously covered her cute little jade nose, frowned and said, Can you not do this kind of disgusting action? Yang Qing smiled indifferently, if my foot is itchy, I'll scratch it myself. It's natural, what's disgusting about it? What's the point of enduring the pain? Lin Ruoshi swore that this was the first time in her life that she met such a shameless person. Although through preliminary understanding, she knew that this person was just a mutton skewer vendor. But what could she do? The fact that she lost her virginity to him could not be changed. She could only make the best of the following things. Yang Qing, wait. Yang Qing once again stopped Lin Ruoshi's words. What is it now? Lin Ruoshi was a little annoyed. Her cold face was flushed red, as if blood was rushing to her head. Yang Qing said with some embarrassment, Miss Lin, you see, you know my name, and you also know that I was arrested by the police. It's obvious that you've investigated me. But I don't even know what your name is, and you said that you want to talk to me. Isn't this a bit? As he said that, he also greedily looked at Lin Ruoshi a few times and licked his lips. Lin Ruoshi, Ruo as in Ruo, she as in 11. Can we talk about the matter? Lin Ruoshi suddenly regretted her decision. The man in front of her had a face full of lust. It was completely different from the honest man she imagined. But once she made up her mind, there was no room for turning back. So, bracing herself, Lin Ruoshi still planned to go through with it to the end. Lin Ruoshi. Yang Qing seemed to be reminiscing as he whispered a few times, Not bad, this name suits you. My grandfather got it for me, but that's not the point. I need you to do something for me now. Lin Ruoshi felt disgusted to hear her name called out by this rascal. Yang Qing looked at Lin Ruoshi warily. That, Miss Lin, don't tell me you want me to repay you for bailing me out? I don't have money, and I only have my life. Seeing Yang Qing actually put on a pitiful look, Lin Ruoshi only felt a wave of nausea. Too lazy to take another look, she turned her head and said, Marry me? What? Marry me? Lin Ruoshi's face was so red that juice could flow out of it. She repeated it in a voice as soft as a mosquito. Yang Qing still suspected that he heard it wrong. He carefully put his ear forward and asked dryly, Miss Lin, can you say it clearly? Why do I feel like I'm having an auditory hallucination? You're not having an auditory hallucination. Lin Ruoshi seemed to have made up her mind and restored her cold expression. I said, I want you to marry me. Get married immediately. After each word jumped into Yang Cheng's ears, Yang Cheng had to admit that he didn't have an auditory hallucination. He couldn't help but smile bitterly and said, Miss Lin, you're too hasty. You can't say that you want to marry me just because you slept with me once. Marriage is a big thing that concerns a person's whole life. I think you need to consider it carefully and not be impulsive. This time, Yang Qing didn't joke with her. Instead, he looked at Lin Ruoshi earnestly, hoping that she could understand. Lin Ruoshi shook her head directly. I'm not a child. I know what I'm doing. I'm not young anymore. It's time for me to get married. It's just that I haven't found a suitable candidate. Of course, don't think that you're the right candidate. Because of some reason, last night's incident happened. Speaking up to here, Lin Ruoshi's pretty face couldn't help but blush. However, she immediately continued, I can tell you very clearly that I'm a very conservative woman. Rather than being forced to marry another unfamiliar and annoying man, I'd rather choose you. At least I gave my first time to you. Yang Qing pondered for a moment. His lips curled into a sneer. Miss Lin, I understand what you mean. The marriage you want is just a decoration. As the male lead who cooperates with you, compared to the other candidates, I'm obviously the easiest to control, right? Being seen through, Lin Ruoshi inevitably felt uncomfortable. However, she didn't deny it and nodded. Yang Qing, I can guarantee that if you cooperate with me after 3 years, at most 3 years, when my business is completely stable, we'll go our separate ways. You don't need to bear any responsibility. Moreover, I'll give you a huge reward. It's more than you selling mutton skewers for 10 lifetimes. Miss Lin. Yang Cheng's face turned cold. He pondered for a moment and said with a smile, It seems that you haven't figured out one thing. Although I'm poor and only sell mutton skewers, it doesn't mean that I'll marry a woman who has no emotional foundation for money. Even if it's fake. You can say that I'm hypocritical, stupid, and self-righteous. But I don't have any other temperament. I'm just a stubborn person. I have my own principles. In my dictionary, there's no such thing as fake marriage. You. Lin Ruoshi really didn't expect that in her eyes, a smelly man who couldn't be more lowly selling mutton skewers would refuse her request. Even if it's fake. Doesn't he know that in the whole of Zhonghai City, there are so many geniuses who want to get close to me, but they're all excluded? Yang Qing didn't stop and continued, If you're really a conservative woman and can't accept your chastity being taken away by someone you don't love, I understand you. I also feel sorry and guilty for this. If you're willing, I'll seriously pursue you until you can sincerely like me. Then we can get married and I can accept it. As for whether I'll sincerely love you or not, you don't need to doubt it. I think any normal man wouldn't doubt your charm. But, if you want me to pretend to be your husband for 3 years just for your career, I, Yang Qing, won't accept it. Humph, pursue me. Why do you want to pursue me? Your mutton skewers? Lin Ruoshi was really angry. This man's arrogance made her feel inexplicable. Since she was young, no man would refuse any of her unreasonable requests. But she didn't expect that today there would be an ant-like man who refused to marry her. Yang Qing seemed to have returned to his scoundrel appearance. He laughed and said, You see, I'm so handsome, so manly, and my mutton skewers are delicious. My life is hard and simple. I have the advantages of a traditional good man. More importantly, I treat women very well. If I treat my wife, then it's even better, enough. Lin Ruoshi was afraid that if she continued to listen, she would go berserk. 100 million. I'll buy you for 3 years. This is not a matter of money. 100 million in 2 years. Lin Ruoshi lowered her request and said angrily. Yang Qing still shook his head. Even 10 billion won't do. This is a matter of principle. Believe it or not, I can let you get out of the police station and put you in jail for the rest of your life. Lin Ruoshi's eyes were red. She felt wronged in her heart and said hatefully. Yang Qing laughed out loud. Why? Could it be that Miss Lin wants to tell the police that I raped you last night? I clearly remember that Miss Lin took the initiative to ask for it many times. You. You. Lin Ruoshi's white teeth bit her thin pink lip. Tears of grievance and pain suddenly overflowed from her eyes. Yang Qing, you're shameless. Chapter 10. If a woman cried in front of Yang Qing more than half a year ago, Yang Qing would only think that she was stimulated by the enemy's smoke bomb, or deliberately acted to make him relax his vigilance, or even pretended to be pitiful to tempt him. But now, the beautiful woman who had a one-night stand with him was obviously stimulated by his words and cried. Involuntarily, Yang Qing felt guilty in his heart. Although he felt that many of his words were not wrong, it was indeed a bit cruel for a modern woman who had kept her chastity for more than 20 years. Okay, don't cry. I'll apologize to you, okay? Yang Qing touched his jacket pocket with a little annoyance, but it was empty. Then he remembered that he wanted to quit smoking recently, so he didn't buy cigarettes with him. Lin Ruoshi's pretty face made people feel infinite pity, but this girl was also a stubborn person. After crying out 2 lines of clear tears, she took out a tissue to wipe it, and forcibly held it back. She just stared at Yang Qing with red eyes and said, I'll ask you again, will you marry me? I say, Miss Lin, how can there be a beautiful woman who wants a man to be her husband these days? I made it very clear that I won't accompany you to play this boring game for 3 years. Yang Qing sighed, stood up and planned to leave. Lin Ruoshi didn't say anything more this time, but there was a trace of sadness in her eyes. She stood up at the same time with a numb expression and took the lead to walk to the balcony on the 2nd floor of the café. The balcony of the café was relatively spacious. There were a few exquisite small tables with umbrellas. There were various bonsai plants on the balcony, which looked fresh and pleasant. When Yang Qing saw this scene, his pupils shrank, and he took a deep breath. Miss Lin, are you going to jump off the balcony because I don't want to marry you? Lin Ruoshi didn't seem to hear it and continued to walk to the balcony without saying a word. Lin Ruoshi slowly approached the edge of the balcony, pulled a chair, and stepped on the chair to approach the guardrail of the wall. This time, Yang Qing hesitated. This girl can't really be so hot-tempered, right? You have to know that if you jump off the balcony and fall on the hard stone floor below, you will be disabled even if you don't die. However, Lin Ruoshi's action immediately told Yang Qing how terrifying her determination was. Indifferently, Lin Ruoshi looked back at Yang Qing. Her eyes were full of determination, disgust, pain and sadness. It was as if her whole soul was suffering in this beautiful body and was trying to escape. When their eyes met, Yang Qing felt his heart twitch. He was too familiar with this gaze. This gaze was too similar to an image in the depths of his mind that couldn't be erased. It was that image that allowed him to break free from the bloody shackles abroad for more than a decade and return to the country where he was born more than half a year ago. But now, from Lin Ruoshi's eyes, Yang Qing once again recalled too many things that he tried to forget but couldn't forget. At this moment, Yang Qing was lost. Lin Ruoshi saw that Yang Qing was standing there like a wooden chicken, as if he didn't want to express much. Her heart was miserable. Even when she jumped off the building, that man was indifferent. Thinking of the pain of losing her chastity to him, the various pressures and entanglements in life, work, and home, Lin Ruoshi felt that she was really going to collapse. What's the point of living? Just die and everything will be over. At this moment, the young male waiter who had finished preparing the coffee walked upstairs with a tray. The first thing he saw was the beautiful figure of Lin Ruoshi, who was about to jump off the building. Miss Lin, what are you doing? It's dangerous. As soon as the male waiter's voice fell, a figure suddenly flashed in front of his eyes, leaving behind an afterimage. It was so fast that it was like a movie special effect. Lin Ruoshi held back her tears. The moment she got up and jumped down the building, a pair of strong and powerful hands suddenly wrapped around her slender waist, stopping her from jumping. All of this happened in a flash. The male waiter at the staircase didn't see what was going on at all. He saw that on the balcony, the man in rough clothes was hugging the beautiful woman's waist. The two of them were quietly standing on the balcony without moving. The sun shone on the emerald green plants on the balcony, and the faint green light shone on the young man and woman. The atmosphere seemed peaceful and ambiguous. The male waiter let out a sigh of relief, and at the same time, he secretly envied this man for being able to have this kind of relationship with a great beauty like Miss Lin. After quietly putting down the coffee, he retreated downstairs. Lin Ruoshi felt as if she had instantly returned from hell to heaven. She didn't know how Yang Qing was able to move behind her in an instant, and she didn't have the mood to think about these things. She only felt a pair of hot arms tightly hugging her waist, so tight that it hurt. And the man's heavy breathing was slowly blowing on her sensitive jade back. "Let me go. If you stop me now, I will still die later." Lin Ruoshi's face was flushed red, and she still stubbornly said. Yang Qing took a deep breath, as if he was enjoying the tempting body fragrance emitted from Lin Ruoshi's body. Her body fragrance had a faint jasmine smell, and Yang Qing, who had smelled too many top-quality perfume, felt that this body fragrance was superior to everything else. "Lin Ruoshi, I lost. I'll marry you." Yang Qing sighed softly. Lin Ruoshi's delicate body trembled, and then she became silent. "Did I win? But why? I don't feel happy at all. Yes, this is just a man used as a shield. He even took away my chastity when I was in a daze. I hate him. How can I love him? If I don't love him, how can I be happy to marry him?" At the same time, many passers-by in the square saw the man and woman on the balcony, and many people began to point at them with great interest. "Hubby, what do you think they are doing?" a girl asked while holding a man's arm. "I can't even tell. They are imitating the Titanic. It's really romantic." Lin Ruoshi, who was on the balcony, couldn't stand the fiery gazes from downstairs. She finally realized that the two of them were extremely ambiguous. She jumped off the chair in a panic, broke free from Yang Qing's embrace, and walked back into the coffee shop. When the two of them sat down again, the matter had already come to an end. But the two of them were silent and drank their coffee. After a long time, Lin Ruoshi put down the coffee cup, took out 2 pieces of paper and a pen from her small LV bag, and handed one to Yang Qing. "What's this?" Yang Qing asked in confusion as he returned to his senses from his distant thoughts. "Agreement, marriage agreement." Lin Ruoshi turned her head again and didn't look at Yang Qing anymore. She returned to her original indifferent face. Yang Qing smiled, took the pen, and wrote his name on the signature column without looking at it. "You didn't look at it before you signed it?" Lin Ruoshi frowned. Yang Qing shook his head and smiled. "I don't need to look at it to know. It's nothing more than not entering your room, not pushing you down, not interfering with each other's private life. In front of others, you have to do your best and put on a good show. Give me the reward after 3 years. Am I right?" Lin Ruoshi pursed her lips and muttered, "Almost. Anyway, you signed it. You have to abide by it in the future." "Hee, but little Ruoshi, if you take the initiative to do it with me, what should I do?" Yang Qing asked with a cheeky smile. "You." Lin Ruoshi was so angry that her face turned red. "Humph. No, that kind of stain on life once is enough." "Stain on life? Half of the world does it every day, but in this girl's eyes it was a stain on life." Yang Qing smiled and drank a big gulp of coffee. He stood up and said, "Well, I have to go to my friend's house for dinner. Let's leave the registration for tomorrow." "Wait, how do I contact you?" "Where's your phone number?" Lin Ruoshi said with dissatisfaction. Yang Qing scratched his head and said awkwardly, "Didn't you investigate me? I don't have a phone, and I have to pay the phone bill. I don't have money. You can come to my house tomorrow. Just call me downstairs." He was about to leave. "Hey. Is there anything else?" Yang Qing turned around. "You don't call me that." Lin Ruoshi was too embarrassed to call him that. It was too mushy. Yang Qing suddenly understood and said with a serious face, "Yes, my dear wife." Lin Ruoshi felt the world was spinning. How could she get along with such a rascal in the future? Chapter 11. Since he promised Old Li that he would be a guest at his home, Yang Qing naturally wouldn't forget. Doing what he said was a man's quality. Well, Yang Qing once again raised a small matter to the level of human brilliance. Because he was penniless and didn't want to spend too much time with Lin Ruoshi, that cold and crazy beautiful girl, Yang Qing chose to walk home. Fortunately, the distance wasn't far, and Yang Qing's physical strength was unimaginable for ordinary people. Therefore, it didn't take much effort to walk home. It was already evening. After Yang Qing returned to his room and took a cold shower, he once again opened his wooden box. He glanced at it a few times and took out a light blue-white shirt from the bottom of the box. On the lower body, he wore a classic pure white pair of shorts. After some small buttons were misplaced, Yang Qing looked at the cracked mirror on the wall. Finally, he looked a little handsome. The room was still filled with a faint jasmine fragrance that was left by Lin Ruoshi. Yang Qing took a deep breath. Thinking that tomorrow, he would register his marriage with a woman that he had not known for more than a day, it seemed a little ridiculous. However, whenever he thought of Lin Ruoshi's determined eyes that made his frozen heart burn, Yang Qing would have a strange sense of intimacy towards this unreasonably beautiful woman. Was it because she wanted to make up for it? Or was she really that different? Yang Qing didn't know, so Yang Qing decided to marry her and let time tell him what kind of feelings he had for her. Old Li's home wasn't far, but Yang Qing didn't have any transportation and could only use Route 11 to get there. It took him half an hour to get there. It was an old-fashioned residential area in the West District. The surrounding area was filled with residents who didn't have the money to buy a new house. For generations, they had lived in this small area that retained the ancient Jiangnan atmosphere. After passing by a few small houses with smoke curling up from the chimneys, Yang Qing knocked on a red wooden door. After just a few knocks, the wooden door was pulled open. A pure and beautiful face appeared in the door. "Brother Yang, you're here." "Jingjing, long time no see." Yang Qing revealed a knowing smile. The girl in front of him had changed a lot in the past 6 months, which surprised him a little. Li Jingjing's face was still as elegant and refined as before. Her curly eyelashes, exquisite little nose, and cute little mouth were the typical characteristics of a Jiangnan woman. She wore a white short-sleeved t-shirt and a pair of light blue jeans that tightly wrapped around her perky buttocks, revealing a pair of white and slender legs. Seeing Yang Qing's eyes sweep over her body with a naughty smile, Li Jingjing felt shy and happy at the same time. She said coquettishly, "Brother Yang, come on in. Don't look." Yang Qing laughed. "Jingjing knows how to be shy. It's not like you'll lose a piece of meat if you let Big Brother see it. Are you afraid that your boyfriend will be jealous?" "What? I don't have a boyfriend," Li Jingjing immediately denied. She frowned and was a little annoyed. All right. I'm just joking with you." Yang Qing felt rather helpless. How could he not know what the girl in front of him was thinking? However, his body was permeated with the blood of darkness. How could he taint a soul that was pure to the bone? Therefore, he always made Li Jingjing understand that he was her brother and not the person she thought he was. Entering the living room of Old Li's house, Old Li greeted him with a smile. "Little Yang, they say that girls are outgoing. Jingjing, this child, was just helping her mother cook. When she heard you knocking on the door, she ran out like a rabbit." "Dad, don't talk nonsense." Li Jingjing was shy again. She pulled Old Li to stop him from saying more. Yang Qing laughed and sat down with Old Li. The furniture in the house was used for decades. The redwood paint was a little withered, but it set off a simple and unadorned feeling. Under the dim light, the summer insects swayed back and forth in the house. A cool breeze blew into the corridor. It seemed serene and peaceful. Drinking the tea brewed by Li Jingjing, Yang Qing suddenly had an unprecedented sense of satisfaction. His eyes looked at the moon and stars in the night sky outside the house. He couldn't help but be silly. Young man, don't show an appearance of being disillusioned. A great future is waiting for you. Old Li drank the green tea and teased. Yang Chun snapped back to reality. Smiling, he said, nowadays women like men who are deep in thought. I'm just practicing pretending to be deep in thought. Old Li smiled and said, Little Yang, others don't know, but I, Old Li, have been with you for more than half a year. I know your character. You are not pretending. You brat, if you didn't experience something before, why would you like to sell mutton skewers on the street? Yang Chen wasn't willing to say anything more. Old Li was someone who had been through a lot of hardships in life. Naturally, he would be able to see through some of Yang Chen's inner thoughts. But so what? What they thought was still too different from the real him. Some people are destined to be lonely, because no one can be with them. Dinner was very sumptuous. Old Li's family specially killed an old hen they raised and made delicate chicken soup. Fish, crab were also brought up. For the financial situation of Old Li's family, this was more luxurious than the New Year's Eve dinner. Little Yang, eat more. Although it is a little simple, it is also a token of our family's appreciation. Aunt Li's face was full of wrinkles, and her face was kind, as if she was looking at her own son. Yang Qing didn't say much and didn't pretend. He ate the meat in big mouthfuls because he knew that this was the only way to make the husband and wife truly happy. Li Jingjing also put food in Yang Qing's bowl from time to time. She would also secretly peek at Yang Qing when her parents weren't paying attention. When she heard Yang Qing say that the food was delicious, her heart felt like it had eaten honey, because the food was basically cooked by her. Originally, Yang Qing didn't intend to drink alcohol, but he didn't succeed in quitting smoking, and he also drank alcohol a long time ago. Also, there was the matter of marriage, so Yang Qing was too lazy to pay attention to it. He drank a few cups of wine with Old Li, and his intestines were burning. It was very comfortable. Little Yang, if it wasn't for the money you lent to our family for the past 6 months, our family probably wouldn't be able to live until now. Now that Jingjing has also found a job, you can come to our house often in the future. Auntie will make delicious food for you, Aunt Li said with a smile. Yang Qing's face was already red, but his mind was still clear. He happily asked, Oh, Jingjing found a job? What job? I was accepted by Zhonghai First Middle School to be an English teacher. Because a class teacher gave birth, I am now a substitute class teacher. Li Jingjing smiled quietly. Being a teacher, also an English teacher, a class teacher, Jingjing is really not simple. Yang Qing nodded with satisfaction. That salary isn't low, right? When you become rich, don't forget your big brother Yang. Old Li and his wife also smiled proudly. They had a daughter when they were old. Now that their daughter had a good future, they were naturally very happy. Li Jingjing shyly pouted. Then Big Brother Yang, when you have time, you should come to school to see me. Otherwise, how can I think of Big Brother Yang? Okay, I will definitely go. Zhonghai First Middle School is a key high school. I haven't been there before. Yang Qing smiled and agreed. After eating, Yang Qing was enthusiastically pulled by Old Li to drink tea and play chess. To be honest, Old Li, this lousy chess player, could only play with Yang Qing, who didn't know how to play. As for Li Jingjing, she obediently accompanied her mother to clean up the bowls and chopstick. After losing a game of chess, Yang Qing only felt that his stomach was full of soup, wine, and tea. He asked Old Li to wait first and ran to the toilet to open the gate. Old Li's toilet was at the back of the house. It was a small independent room. After passing through a small corridor, Yang Qing, who was a little confused, opened the wooden door of the toilet. A clear and panicked voice passed into Yang Qing's ears. He suddenly raised his head, and Yang Qing was immediately stunned. In front of him was Li Jingjing, who had just finished bathing. At this moment, the little beauty was completely naked. Although the light from the small 40-watt light bulb was not bright enough, it was enough for Yang Qing to see that youthful and energetic snow-white body. Her black and oily hair hung down to her waist. Li Jingjing hurriedly covered her pepper-shaped breasts with her hands, but it was difficult to resist the fullness, turning it into a round cake shape. Following the breasts down, under the smooth belly without any fat, Li Jingjing's other hand covered the dense rainforest, and a pair of round thighs tightly clamped the sexy area. Li Jingjing didn't know that her action increased the faintly discernible temptation. Yang Chen was already feeling a little dizzy from drinking, and the secretion of hormones accelerated. At this moment, when he saw Li Jingjing's youthful and charming female body, he couldn't help but swallow his saliva, and a violent desire to possess her arose. Chapter 12. Yang. Big brother Yang. Quickly get out. Li Jingjing turned around, but she was afraid of letting him see her round buttocks. She couldn't help but cry. Hearing the girl's clear pleading, Yang Qing's bloodshot eyes calmed down. Taking a deep breath to suppress his impulsive desire, Yang Qing immediately closed the door and left. After quietly waiting outside for a while, Li Jingjing came out with her head down. Her blush spread all the way to the girl's ears. Yang Qing apologetically said, "I'm sorry, Jingjing, I didn't mean it." Li Jingjing softly said, "And I know. Big brother Yang is a good person." "A good person, huh?" Yang Qing bitterly smiled and muttered, "Jingjing, in the future when you earn enough money to buy a good house, a loan is fine too. As a girl, it's not convenient for you to always live with your parents." And the girl didn't know if she heard it. She had a pitiful appearance like a wounded little sheep, making people feel pity for her. Yang Qing sighed, "It's late. You should rest early. Tomorrow you have to go to work. I just became a teacher, so I have to make some achievements. I'll go to the bathroom and go back. And, big brother Yang, take care." The girl's voice was still soft, but it could really numb a man's bones. Seeing Li Jingjing taking a bath, Yang Qing completely sobered up. His heart was filled with guilt for this innocent girl. Yang Qing walked out of the courtyard under the old Li couple's farewell. After closing the door, the old Li couple talked about Yang Qing. Aunt Li said with some worry, "Old man, do you think our Jingjing likes little Yang? Why does she look at little Yang with such happy eyes? It's good that she likes him. Little Yang and our Jingjing are a good match." Old Li laughed. "What are you talking about? Little Yang is a good person, but he also sells mutton skewers. Our Jingjing is now a high school teacher. Do you want Jingjing to marry a mutton skewer seller?" Aunt Li angrily said. Old Li took a drag of his cigarette unhappily. "What's wrong? Are you looking down on us small businessmen? Little Yang has helped us so much. If it wasn't for our family, would he only sell mutton skewers?" Auntie Li saw that she had angered her husband, so she didn't say anything more. However, she had made up her mind that she couldn't let her daughter be with Yang Qing. At most, she would treat Yang Qing to a few more meals to compensate Yang Qing. What the old couple didn't know was that their precious daughter, Li Jingjing, was secretly standing by the window upstairs, watching Yang Qing leave with a blushing face and a racing heart. Along the river, Yang Qing bought a pack of West Lake cigarettes that cost 2 yuan at the canteen and smoked as he walked in the direction of his home. He thought back to the time when he first returned to China and met Li Jingjing's family. He thought about how the little girl suddenly became a young girl half a year later. He couldn't help but sigh at the 18 changes of a girl from childhood to womanhood. He also felt that the world was unpredictable. He remembered that he had saved Li Jingjing, who was almost raped by a gangster, at this river. That was how he got to know old Li's family. Perhaps every girl had the heart to worship heroes. Even if he was a mutton skewer seller, in Li Jingjing's heart, he was different. Thinking about this, Yang Qing unknowingly walked to the pier along the river. A few sparse street lights illuminated the pier, revealing a hazy beauty. The summer breeze blew past, bringing with it a whistling coolness. At this time, a tall SUV appeared on the road in front of him. Yang Cheng's eyes suddenly lit up. He looked at the guardrail by the river and saw a tall woman in a long black dress standing against the wind. Her wavy hair fluttered in the air, emitting a few strands of rose red under the light, setting off a charming and fair face. The woman had light eyeshadow on. Her watery eyes stared at the distant yacht with blurred lights, revealing a touch of sadness. The plump figure showed the excellent charm of a mature woman. Her full breasts and round and plump buttocks were still eye-catching under the black gauze skirt. Under a pair of flesh-colored stockings was a pair of crystal-colored high-heeled shoes, exuding a noble and elegant aura all over her body. This was definitely the best prey to hunt at night. Yang Qing just glanced at her, and his blood, which had just been boiling because of looking at Li Jingjing's body, showed signs of burning again. Good car. I didn't expect to see a limited edition Land Rover of only 40 in the country in this place. Yang Qing clicked his tongue in praise and slowly leaned against the guardrail. The beautiful woman withdrew her gaze and gently turned her head. There was a bit of confusion and surprise in her eyes, but then she revealed a charming and beautiful smile. You know this car? More than know, this kind of British man-made Land Rover. I have blown up hundreds of them in the past. Yang Qing secretly smiled bitterly in his heart, while his face leisurely said, Anniversary, the 40th anniversary edition of Land Rover. The maximum power is 375 kilowatts, the peak torque is 625 and the 5.0-liter supercharged engine. Am I right? I don't understand what you said. I just like this car, so I bought it. The woman stroked her flying hair. This simple action looked enchanting and charming. Don't women like small and elegant sports cars? Porsche 911, Mercedes-Benz SLR, BMW Z4, even the appearance of Audi TT will be more popular than Land Rover. I don't believe that people who can buy this car can't afford those cars. Yang Qing took out a cigarette. Since the mature beauty in front of him didn't reject him, then Yang Qing didn't mind chatting more. The woman shook her head. I don't think so. Driving a sports car is far less secure than driving an SUV. Shouldn't women protect themselves better? Beauty, it seems that you don't have a sense of security. Yang Qing was happy in his heart. She seemed to be a resentful woman. This kind of woman was the easiest to hook. Who knew? The woman still shook her head. You're wrong. I'm very safe. The reason why I said driving an SUV is more secure is just to comfort my heart. You're wrong. If you really have a sense of security, you should give me a slap and tell me to F***ck off. Yang Qing came forward with an evil smile and puffed out a mouthful of smoke. The woman didn't dodge. The pungent smell of the cigarette dissipated in the wind. Her bright eyes stared straight at Yang Qing. In the end, she smiled brightly. Which family's young master are you? If you want to use this kind of words to attract my, Tang Wan's attention, then you're looking down on me too much. You're called Tang Wan? Yang Qing silently read the name twice and said with a smile, I'm not some family's young master. I'm just a mutton skewer seller. When you have time, go to the West District Market and take a look at me. Mutton skewer seller? Tang Wan seriously looked at Yang Qing and couldn't help but burst into laughter. After a while, she stopped and said, Little handsome brother, do you think I'm a fool or are you lying to yourself? I really am a mutton skewer seller, although I don't have a business license. Yang Qing repeated in distress. How come in this world no one believes the truth? Chapter 13. With a cold snort, Tang Wan suddenly stretched out her ivory-smooth hand and pinched the button of Yang Qing's shirt collar. She charmingly rolled her eyes at Yang Qing. This is a purely handmade shirt from Italy. It's specially designed for the royal family and doesn't have a brand logo. However, the button is made of South African blue diamonds. The polishing technique is completely at the top of the world. This shirt alone costs no less than 10 million RMB. Do you think anyone can't recognize it? Do you think you're wearing a shirt from a random brand with plastic buttons? Yang Qing was a little embarrassed. He really did not expect someone to recognize the true value of his shirt. However, he quickly laughed and said, Miss Tang has a good eye, but you're still wrong. This blue diamond is produced in Namibia, not South Africa. You're still saying you're not the son of a rich family. Not many people in Zhonghai are qualified to wear a shirt with Namibian diamonds as buttons. It's not fun to lie. Tang Wan narrowed her eyes, already a little displeased. Yang Qing took a few deep puffs of his cigarette and threw the butt into the river. He was extremely depressed. Miss Tang Wan, let's be frank. Yes, you're very beautiful. I, Yang Qing, want to sleep with you, but I don't have to pretend to be a mutton skewer seller to sleep with you, right? I already said I'm a mutton skewer seller. Who said a mutton skewer seller can't wear clothes worth 10 million RMB? Can't you trust me and change the topic? Let's talk about romance. That's really rude. Tang Wan scolded without hesitation. Then, she smiled like a flower. But I like your frankness. All right, I'll temporarily treat you as a mutton skewer seller. However, Mr. Yang Qing, I don't want to sleep with you. I don't want to sleep with a mutton skewer seller. Not at all. Then why are you talking so much to me? Yang Qing was a little depressed. He thought he met a beauty who threw herself into his arms, who knew that the other party had no intention of doing so at all. Tang Wan giggled, and her pair of breasts seemed to be shaking. Mr. Yang, you're really a straightforward man, much more pleasing to the eye than those men who pretend to be elegant. It's a pity that I'm not the kind of woman you think I am. I'm only telling you all this because my heart was a little stifled just now. And then, my mood is much better now. I really have to thank you. If fate allows us to meet again, I will treat you to tea. After that, Tang Wan walked towards her continental tiger. After a few steps, she stopped and turned back with a charming smile. Oh right, I suggest that you don't blow smoke at women in the future. Most women are not prostitutes in nightclubs. They won't think that your behavior is very polite. After that, she swayed her plump body and walked back to the car. Watching the Land Rover disappear into the distance like a leopard in the dark, Yang Qing helplessly muttered to himself, Is selling mutton skewers really that bad? Don't tell me I have to change my profession? The next morning, not long after Yang Qing woke up, he heard a knock on his door. He got up gloomily and walked to the door in a pair of briefs to open the door. As expected, it was Lin Ruoshi with a frosty face outside. Seeing Yang Qing's strong and naked upper body, Lin Ruoshi could not help but blush, but she still turned her head and said with a blank expression, Hurry up and get dressed, I'm in a hurry. Yang Qing grabbed his hair. I say, Miss Lin, why are you acting like an uncle and aunt going to the market to get married? Can you let me take a shower and have breakfast first? No, I have a meeting at 10 o'clock. Lin Ruoshi's tone could not be refused. Don't forget to bring your household register and ID. Helpless against a woman's power, Yang Qing put on a shirt and shorts and followed Lin Ruoshi downstairs. They sat together in her red Bentley. Lin Ruoshi took 2 big bags from the back seat and threw them on Yang Qing. Without turning her head, she said, Change into this, lest people laugh at you. Only then did Yang Qing notice that today, Lin Ruoshi was wearing a formal office lady suit. The beige suit was obviously made by a famous designer. The smooth lines wrapped around Lin Ruoshi's enchanting and moving curves, setting off her cold and elegant beautiful face. She was definitely an enchanting beauty in the eyes of men. Hee, wife, we haven't officially married yet, but you're already buying clothes for your husband. Yang Qing laughed shamelessly. He took out an Armani suit and trousers from the big bag, as well as a pair of brand-new Pierre Cardin leather shoes. It was obvious that he had carefully prepared them. Lin Ruoshi drove the car seriously, pretending not to hear anything. She was also too lazy to care about Yang Qing's rascally tone. Yang Qing's hands and feet were very nimble. Even in the relatively narrow seat, he easily changed into a brand new set of luxury clothes. He also narcissistically combed his hair with the mirror in the car. He looked 100 times more energetic. Although her eyes were looking straight ahead, Lin Ruoshi still couldn't help but sneak a few glances at Yang Qing. When she saw Yang Qing in a suit and tie, Lin Ruoshi felt her heart involuntarily speed up. Although she felt that it was very shameful, this man's free and unruly manner, as well as the faint sadness that occasionally emitted from his eyes, made women a little fascinated. With this suit, Yang Cheng's temperament was much more extraordinary than those rich young masters that she usually saw. Lin Ruoshi comforted herself in her heart. At least I won't lose face if I bring him out. They sped all the way and took Yang Cheng's colored photos. Soon, the two of them arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau. After getting out of the car, Lin Ruoshi hesitated a little, but she still gritted her teeth and went forward to hold Yang Cheng's arm. She put on a happy and helpless look. Yang Qing couldn't help but laugh. "My good wife, you're already acting. You're really dedicated. Don't laugh. Play your role well. We've signed a contract." Lin Ruoshi glared at Yang Qing. Yang Qing sighed helplessly and let Lin Ruoshi hold his arm. Anyway, his arm could still rub against Lin Ruoshi's soft chest from time to time. Taking advantage of her was a good thing. How could Lin Ruoshi not feel it? But she could only grit her teeth and endure it. After all, she still had many days to act in the future. She just had to let this bad guy take advantage of her. When they entered the Civil Affairs Bureau, the two's appearance attracted everyone's attention. Yang Qing, who was wearing branded clothes, looked free and easy, while Lin Ruoshi was naturally beautiful. In the eyes of the surrounding people, they were simply a match made in heaven. After the Civil Affairs Bureau's civil servants verified the two's documents, they quickly completed the procedures and smiled at the two of them. "Congratulations. This is your marriage certificate, please keep it. You two are really an enviable couple. You'll definitely be together for 100 years. Lin Ruoshi had been holding Yang Cheng's wrist the whole time. Being stared at by the surrounding people, her face had long since become hot. At this moment, when she received the marriage certificate, it was as if she had just had a dream. It was so magical. "I'm actually married to a man I've only known for a day." Lin Ruoshi raised her head to look at Yang Chen, who was beside her with slightly blurred eyes. She discovered that Yang Chen was also blankly looking at the marriage certificate, lost in thought. Was he also feeling emotional? What was he thinking? Did he dislike it, or was he happy? Lin Ruoshi suddenly asked herself, but she was shocked. How could she care about what he was thinking? Yang Qing suddenly turned his head and looked at Lin Ruoshi. He smiled evilly and said, "What's wrong, wife? Don't tell me you're regretting it right after getting the marriage certificate. You were the one who forced me to come. Do you really think I'm willing to marry you?" Lin Ruoshi whispered hatefully, "But don't worry. When I, Lin Ruoshi, have decided on something, I won't go back on it. You just have to obediently cooperate with me for 3 years according to the agreement. Don't make trouble for me." After the two of them walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Lin Ruoshi immediately let go of Yang Cheng's arm and returned to her cold face. "Okay, I have to go to work for a meeting. You can go back first." "Go back? You don't want me to walk back, do you?" Yang Qing felt miserable. His wife was too outrageous. They had just gotten married, and she wanted him, her husband, to walk dozens of kilometers home. Lin Ruoshi took out a card from her purse and handed it to Yang Qing. On it, there was an address written in beautiful handwriting: Wenhua Road, Dragon Garden number 89. "Since we're married, of course we have to live together on the surface. Otherwise, we won't be able to hide it from others. You can move in with me and move out of your doghouse as soon as possible." After saying that, she got into the car without looking back and drove away. Yang Cheng's smile was uglier than crying. He muttered to himself, "In the end, I still have to go." Chapter 14. After asking many people along the way, Yang Qing leisurely wandered to the address, Dragon Garden. After arriving, Yang Qing finally understood how wealthy his beautiful wife was. Dragon Garden was a high-class villa area in the suburbs. The distance between each villa was at least a mile. It was surrounded by pavilions, terraces and pavilions, clear water, and green land. The European classical-style layout gave off a rich sense of the most expensive and elegant atmosphere. When the security guards at the entrance saw Yang Qing's unfamiliar face, they were confused. They were curious why a rich person would walk in. However, when they saw his expensive suit, they didn't stop him, saving Yang Qing a lot of effort in explaining. After entering Dragon Garden, Yang Qing still had to walk for more than 2 kilometers before arriving at the address marked Villa number 89. The entire villa was more than 400 square meters, not including the open-air swimming pool and the huge parking garage. The Baroque villa was built with heavy marble. It was hard to imagine how much money such a house would cost. After pressing the doorbell, the beautifully carved mahogany door was quickly opened. The person who opened the door was a woman wearing home clothes and an apron. Her face showed signs of aging, but she maintained it well. She didn't look old even though she was 40 or 50 years old. When she saw Yang Qing, her eyes were filled with joy. She said enthusiastically, "Young master, right? Miss said you would come today. Come in." Seeing that the woman wasn't shy at all, Yang Qing relaxed a lot. He smiled as he entered and asked, "How should I address you, big sister?" "My name is Wang Yulan. You can just call me Mother Wang." Mother Wang beamed and said, "Young master, how can you call me big sister? I watched Miss grow up. It's more appropriate to call you auntie." "Mother Wang isn't old at all. You'll definitely charm a lot of men when you walk on the street," Yang Qing said sincerely. There wasn't a woman who wouldn't like to be praised as beautiful, and Wang Ma, who was in her middle years, was naturally no exception. She was even happier after hearing it, and after inviting Yang Qing to sit, she happily smiled and said, "Young master, please take a seat for a while. I'm almost done in the kitchen. I'll welcome you right away. It's a pity that Miss has a meeting and has no time to come back." "Mother Wang, only you and Lin. Oh, Ruashi live in this house?" Yang Qing looked around. The entire villa was divided into 3 floors, with all the modern appliances available. The white leather sofa, the black marble floor, the mahogany furniture, the big and small paintings of famous artists hanging on the wall, and a few blooming orchids swaying by the window. It looked simple yet elegant. But as he looked at the large number of doors on the 2nd and 3rd floors, Yang Qing felt that it was extremely spacious. Mother Wang sighed sorrowfully. "That's right. It's just the 2 of us living here. It's so lonely. Miss is busy with work and isn't home all day. I'm the only one guarding this big house. But now it's good. Now that Miss has you, our family has a man. This is how a family should be." Looking at Mother Wang's satisfied face, Yang Qing couldn't help but ask curiously, "Mother Wang, don't you find it strange that Ruashi suddenly married me?" "Hee." Mother Wang smiled and said, "Young master, I watched Miss grow up. Miss has never had a boyfriend since she was young. There are many men chasing after Miss outside. But Miss didn't like any of them. But now that she wants to marry you, you must be different. Miss is so smart. I believe in Miss's taste. What's strange about it?" Yang Qing nodded in understanding, but he was muttering in his heart, "Mother Wang would never have thought that Lin Ruashi and I are married by contract." After eating a sumptuous lunch, Yang Qing burped in satisfaction. He rubbed his round belly and smiled. "Mother Wang's cooking is amazing. This taste is much better than those big restaurants." Mother Wang beamed with joy. "Is that so? Young master, eat at home more in the future. Miss often has something to do and doesn't come home. It's a pity that I don't have anyone to eat after I cook. That girl is wasting God's gift. Don't worry about her. Mother Wang, if there's something good to eat in the future, it's fine." Yang Qing patted his chest. Mother Wang knew that Yang Qing was joking. She nodded happily and agreed. After tidying up, Mother Wang took off her apron and said, "Young master, I'll go take a look at your room. If there's anything you need, tell me quickly. I'll buy it for you." "My room?" Yang Qing was stunned. He remembered that he promised not to sleep with Lin Ruoshi. Mother Wang led the way and said, "Young master, Miss is very considerate for you. She said that you are used to sleeping alone, so she specially prepared a separate room for you. She also bought a lot of clothes for you." "Is that so?" And Ruoshi is very considerate. Yang Qing touched his nose. He felt that his words were too fake. "Isn't that so? I haven't seen Miss care so much about a man. Also, Miss said that you are busy with work right now. You should get married first. When you have time, you can have a banquet. She is thinking about you," Mother Wang said with a smile. Yang Chen, on the other hand, was sweating profusely. What's going on? It turned out that the girl had already given Wang Ma a heads up, and pushed everything onto me. What's so busy about selling mutton skewers? Entering his room, Yang Qing was a little surprised. The room was surprisingly big. It was even bigger than the small apartment he rented. The floor-to-ceiling window had a white gauze fluttering. There was a low, flat king-sized bed, a 42-inch Sony LED TV, an Apple computer on the bedside, a classical lamp, and a glossy wooden floor. Looking at the corner of the room, there was a huge two-tiered wardrobe filled with brand-new clothes, ties, and leather shoes. Yang Qing smiled. It seemed that his beautiful wife didn't treat him badly. She even prepared all the costumes for acting. "How is it? Are you satisfied?" Mother Wang asked enthusiastically. "Satisfied? Of course I'm satisfied. It's much better than I thought. Thank you, Mother Wang." Yang Qing nodded. "If you want to thank someone, thank Mississippi. I'm just running an errand." Mother Wang had begun to enthusiastically matchmake the young couple. Yang Qing knew Mother Wang's thoughts, but he didn't point it out. "Mother Wang, I still have some things in my original residence. I have to go and get them. I'll go out first." "That's right. There are always some things that you're used to." "But," Yang Qing smiled awkwardly. "Mother Wang, do you have any transportation at home? If there's no car, a bicycle is fine so that I can get there faster." Wang Ma looked at Yang Chen in shock, as if she had seen something incomparably terrifying. "Young master, could it be that you walked here?" Unfortunately, Mother Wang guessed it. Yang Qing spread out his hands. Mother Wang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "This miss is too much. How can she let you walk here? Young master, you can't live here so casually in the future. No matter what, you have to get a car. Young master, come with me. There are a few cars at home. You can drive any one of them." Yang Cheng's eyes lit up. When he saw Lin Ruoshi driving a Bentley Elegance, his hands were itching. However, he didn't have the money to buy a car. He had been coveting it. Could it be that he could get a car for free? Chapter 15. Although he already knew that Lin Ruoshi was extremely rich, he didn't expect that her garage was actually divided into 2 levels, with a total of no less than 10 different cars parked there. Whether it was the Mercedes SLK, Audi R8 Corvette, or even Lamborghini and Maserati, everything was there. However, it was naturally impossible for Yang Qing to choose a supercar to drive out. This kind of car was estimated to have a lifespan of tens of thousands of kilometers in its lifetime. It wasn't that it could only run for that long, but usually driving this kind of car was too eye-catching and too wasteful. Other than racing, it simply couldn't reflect the speed of these cars. These cars, Miss usually doesn't use them, they were all given to her by some business friends. Miss basically doesn't drive them much. If son-in-law likes any of them, just drive them away. Mother Wang introduced with a smile. Yang Qing had always been curious about what his beautiful wife did, but he was too embarrassed to ask Mother Wang. After all, if he didn't even know this, their marriage would be too weird. He could only take the time to ask Lin Ruoshi herself. After walking around, Yang Qing finally saw a relatively normal sports car, a milky white BMW M3. This kind of car was basically the peak of the city sports cars, with a top speed of more than 300 kilometers per hour. But in Lin Ruoshi's garage, there really wasn't any other car that was more inconspicuous than this M3. This one, Yang Qing said as he pointed to the M3. Mother Wang said with some doubt, "Son-in-law, why don't you choose a better one? This seems to be the cheapest car here." The car that cost more than 2 million was the cheapest. Yang Qing smiled and explained, "This one then. It's not good to be too eye-catching. It's better not to show off your wealth, it's better to be low-key." No wonder Miss likes son-in-law. Son-in-law's temperament is really rare. Nowadays young people all think about who has more money, but son-in-law is thinking about how to hide it. Mother Wang nodded in satisfaction, and took out the BMW keys from a corner of the garage and gave it to Yang Qing. After Yang Qing sat in the car with ease, the automatic garage door rolled up. After saying goodbye to Mother Wang, the car shot out of the garage like an arrow leaving the bow. Mother Wang silently watched Yang Qing drive away, quietly sighed and muttered to herself, "Young people nowadays, I really don't understand." After not driving for more than half a year, Yang Qing felt that his hands hadn't degenerated at all. The M3's excellent performance was vividly displayed on the Zhonghai city's roads. It perfectly weaved through the traffic, maintaining a speed of more than 100 kilometers per hour, which was astonishingly fast in the city. Occasionally there were a few traffic policemen who noticed Yang Qing's excessive speed, but they didn't react and just whizzed past. In less than half an hour, Yang Qing returned to the apartment he rented. After going upstairs, Yang Qing suddenly discovered that his door was unexpectedly open. His eyebrows wrinkled. His first reaction was that someone had come in. But when he entered the room, the person inside was actually the familiar Li Jingjing. Li Jingjing wore an embroidered white shirt and a cool emerald-colored gauze skirt. Her jet-black hair was tied into a ponytail, a few strands of hair swayed with the cool breeze flowing in from the window, making her look elegant and refined. At this moment, the girl was earnestly cleaning the room with a mop. Although there were very few things in Yang Qing's room, there was a lot of dust. Seeing Yang Qing return, Li Jingjing revealed a bit of joy. Her face was flushed because of her labor, like a summer elf girl. "Big brother Yang, you're back." Yang Qing felt a burst of warmth in his heart. 2 months ago, when Li Jingjing didn't go for her internship, she often cleaned the room for him. Now that she was back, she had a job, but she still came back at noon to clean the room for him. His heart was filled with guilt and pity for the girl. Yang Qing stepped forward and touched Li Jingjing's soft ponytail. "Jingjing, in the future don't come and clean, I'm going to move." "Move?" Li Jingjing stared blankly for a moment. "Big brother Yang, are you going to leave Zhonghai?" the girl eagerly asked. Yang Qing thought for a moment and finally chose to tell the truth. "No, but I'm married. I'm going to live with my wife, but we're still in Zhonghai." Li Jingjing's small face suddenly turned pale, and a few tears welled up in her beautiful eyes, but she immediately lowered her head and wiped them away. However, her trembling shoulders made people feel that she was not calm at this moment. After the two were silent for a long time, Li Jingjing raised her head. Her eyes were red and she revealed a forced smile. "Congratulations, big brother Yang. Sister-in-law, she must be very beautiful." Yang Qing's heart was also a bit stifled, but it was better to get the pain over with. Yang Qing felt that Li Jingjing had to face this moment, so he could only harden his heart. At this moment, when he heard Li Jingjing's question, his mind flashed with Lin Ruoshi's beautiful face, and he subconsciously nodded. Li Jingjing's eyes flashed a trace of despair, but she seemed to have calmed down. She bitterly smiled and said, "Big brother Yang, you're really bad. You didn't even tell us about such a big thing. But I still want to give you my blessings. I'll go first." Yang Qing looked at Li Jingjing's back as she walked down the stairs like a frightened rabbit. He felt a wave of pain in his heart and quickly said, "Jingjing, I'll go see you in a while. Work hard." Li Jingjing paused for a moment, softly responded, and quickly ran down the stairs. After waiting for a long time for Li Jingjing to leave, Yang Qing took out a cigarette from his pocket and lit it up. He fiercely took a few puffs, and the sadness in his eyes gradually dissipated, followed by a bit of ruthlessness. Yang Qing was very confident in his memory. When he went out, he definitely locked the door. In other words, the reason why Li Jingjing could come in was because the door was forcefully opened by someone else. But who would come to his house for no reason? Yang Qing thought of two possibilities. The first was that some secret department of the country had already begun to investigate him, but that seemed illogical, because if they really wanted to make a move on him, they could just directly target him. That was more direct and effective. The second possibility was that Chen Feng, who had just had an intense conflict with him 2 days ago, realized that even the police couldn't do anything to him, so it was inevitable that he would think of other ways. He really won't shed a tear until he sees the coffin, Yang Qing expressionlessly said to himself, threw the cigarette butt, and started to tidy up his things. Yang Qing tidied up the big suitcase in the house, stuffed some clothes and pants into an old big bag, and went to the bathroom. On a whitewashed wall, Yang Qing suddenly punched with force, and a hole suddenly appeared in the wall. A black palm-sized wooden box was taken out by Yang Qing, and he put it together with the clothes and pants in the bag. After tidying up everything, Yang Qing walked out of the apartment building, and looked back at the old house that he had lived in for more than half a year, as if he wanted to imprint this scene in the deepest part of his mind. After speeding all the way, Yang Qing returned to the villa in Dragon Garden. After parking the car, Yang Qing entered the villa through the automatic small elevator. As soon as he entered the door, he saw a beautiful figure reclining on the sofa in the living room, and a newly filmed Korean drama was playing on the huge TV screen in front of her. Her black hair was tied up high, and her beautiful white neck was like a jade. Just looking at her back would make one's imagination run wild. If it wasn't his newlywed wife, Lin Ruoshi, who could it be? At this moment, Lin Ruoshi was completely immersed in the lingering scenes of the Korean drama on the TV, and did not hear the sound of Yang Qing returning home. Yang Qing revealed a playful smile. He didn't think that his cold wife would actually like to watch romantic Korean dramas. While he felt that it was fun, his depressed mood immediately improved. He walked up and suddenly hugged Lin Ruoshi's fragrant shoulder. "My good wife, give your husband a kiss." Chapter 16. Lin Ruoshi was startled by Yang Qing's sudden appearance, and jumped up from the sofa. Panicking, she turned around and struggled free from Yang Qing's hands. Her beautiful eyes stared at Yang Qing and said, "Don't touch me." "Hey, you don't need to have such a big reaction." Yang Qing smiled bitterly and shrugged, "I'm just teasing you. If I really kissed you, I don't know if you would chop me into pieces in the middle of the night." Lin Ruoshi was too lazy to pay attention to Yang Qing. Pressing the remote control in her hand, the TV was turned off. Thinking that her secret of watching romance dramas had been found out by Yang Qing, she couldn't help but blush and glare fiercely at Yang Qing. "I heard from Mother Wang that you went to pack up your things. Don't bring your stinky things to my house." "Don't worry, it's just a few clothes." Yang Qing pointed to the small package at the staircase. "But my headache is how to open my mutton skewer stall after I live here." "You still want to sell mutton skewers?" Lin Ruoshi simply looked at Yang Qing as if she had seen a monster. She couldn't understand why this man would have such a special liking for selling mutton skewers. He even said it as if it was a pity. Yang Qing blinked. "What's wrong?" "The marriage agreement doesn't say that I can't sell mutton skewers." Lin Ruoshi gritted her teeth. "Anyway, you're not allowed to sell mutton skewers. Starting tomorrow, you will go outside and find a job. It must be the clean kind. It's best if it's an office job." Yang Qing scratched his head in distress. To be honest, it wasn't that he couldn't find that kind of job. Just based on the degree he got from Harvard when he was bored, it was enough for him to enter most of the top companies. But Yang Qing wasn't used to sitting in an office with air conditioning. In his opinion, this kind of elegant job was far from being able to sell mutton skewers on the street and brag to the hawkers. You don't have to find an excuse. You have to change your job. Seeing Lin Ruoshi's expression of, if you don't change, you're dead, Yang Qing shuddered. He was afraid that his fiery wife would jump off the building again, so he quickly nodded. Okay, I'll listen to you. I'll go find a job tomorrow. Lin Ruoshi nodded in satisfaction. She suddenly thought of something and took out a brand new touchscreen phone from her bag. She handed it to Yang Qing and said, "Here, take this phone. Otherwise, you won't be able to find me when you go on stage." Yang Qing smiled and took it. It seemed that this marriage was a pair. There was a mansion, a sports car, and a free cell phone. Although his wife was a little cold, she was at least pleasing to the eye. Looking at Yang Chen's happy expression, Lin Ruoshi's eyes flashed with a trace of disdain once again. She yawned and stretched her body in an incomparably lazy manner. With a seductive posture she said, "All right, I'm going to take a nap. You should prepare for tomorrow's job search." Lin Ruoshi was just about to go upstairs when she heard the doorbell ring. Mother Wang, who was busy in the kitchen, hurried out. She wiped her wet hands on her apron and opened the door. "Master? You're here." Hearing Mother Wang call, "Master," Lin Ruoshi's pretty face instantly turned pale. She turned around with a gloomy expression and faced a middle-aged man who walked in. This was a mature man wearing a dark blue shirt. He had neat hair and a dignified appearance. Only the wrinkles at the corner of his eyes and a few strands of white in his hair showed that he wasn't young. His appearance was similar to Lin Ruoshi's, so he was obviously Lin Ruoshi's father. At this moment, Lin Kuan walked in. His face was very ugly. A pair of sharp eyes stared at Lin Ruoshi, and then fiercely glanced at Yang Qing who was beside her. "Dad!" Lin Ruoshi called out weakly. She wasn't surprised by her father's arrival. She didn't feel sad or happy, as if she was just a stranger. "Dad!" Lin Kuan sneered, "Haha, do you still see me as your father? Without a word, you married a strange man. Do you still see me as your father?" Lin Kuan roared, and his voice echoed in the house. Seeing that the situation wasn't right, Mother Wang was scared silly. She didn't expect that the master didn't know about the marriage between the young miss and the son-in-law. Lin Ruoshi's eyes turned red. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she still held them back. She revealed the stubbornness in her bones. "I already said that I will make my own decision about the marriage. So what if he's a wild man? Anyway, I will marry this wild man. I will not marry that Su Jihong." "You? Is this the tone you use to talk to your biological father?" Lin Kuan sneered. "Well, I raised you for nothing. Don't think that just because your grandmother handed over the company to you, I, as your father, can't control you. Don't forget, I still have 30% of the company's shares. I am also the company's major shareholder. I am also your biological father." "Biological father? Humph, since I was young, only my mother and grandmother were by my side. You were never seen. Also, I don't like Su Jihong at all. You don't need to waste your efforts." Lin Ruoshi suddenly raised her head. She bit her lips and choked with sobs. Lin Kuan was so angry that he laughed. "You don't like him? So what? He is the young master of the Su family, the future CEO of Donghua Technology. What's wrong with you marrying him? Also, do you really like this wild man?" As he said that, he pointed at Yang Qing who was standing quietly at the side. From the moment Lin Kuan came into the conversation between the father and daughter, Yang Qing more or less understood the gist of the situation. It seemed that it was the pressure of this bad-tempered father that made Lin Ruoshi choose to marry him. Of course, the fact that he accidentally had sex with her was also a major reason. Hearing Lin Kuan call him a wild man more than once, even a clay bodhisattva couldn't help but feel uncomfortable. Yang Qing didn't have the awareness of being a son-in-law. Seeing Lin Kuan's finger pointing at him, he frowned and said, "Uncle, I suggest you move your finger away, or else it will be very dangerous. Lin Kuan sneered. Bastard, do you think you are qualified to talk to me? Don't think that I don't know. I have already sent people to investigate. You are just a mutton skewer seller in a vegetable market. Although I don't know what you did to my daughter to make her choose to marry you, in my eyes, you are less than a pile of sh*t. Ouch, what are you doing? In a flash, the arrogant Lin Kuan suddenly retracted his finger. He painfully clutched his own hand and fell to the carpet. Large beads of sweat flowed down his forehead. Yang Chen. You! Lin Ruoxi saw everything clearly from the side. In that split second, Yang Chen suddenly pinched Lin Kuan's hand that was pointing at him, then quickly retracted it. His movements were so fast that it was as if nothing had happened. Yang Qing calmly grinned at Lin Ruoxi. It's nothing. I don't like people pointing their fingers at me and cursing at me. Especially after I warned him that it was very dangerous. His finger is broken. It will probably take 10 days to half a month for it to recover. In reality, if it was the old him, he wouldn't have just broken that finger. He would have smashed that person's head with his palm. Lin Kuan endured the pain and roared hoarsely, "Just you wait, bastard! I want you to die a horrible death. I want to find someone to kill you. Ouch! Dad! Don't say any more. How's your hand?" Although Lin Ruoxi hated her father, blood was still thicker than water. At this time, seeing Lin Kuan in pain, her heart softened and she squatted down to help him. "Little bitch! Don't touch me!" Lin Kuan suddenly pushed Lin Ruoxi away and pushed Lin Ruoxi to the ground. "Dad, you..." Lin Ruoxi felt wronged and her face turned pale. Her own father actually called her a little bitch. Lin Ruoxi felt her eyes darken and she almost fainted. Mother Wang, who was at the side, was already in tears. But as a servant, it wasn't appropriate for her to say anything. At this moment, seeing Lin Ruoxi on the ground crying, she hurriedly went up to comfort her. Lin Kuan staggered to stand up and said to the indifferent Yang Qing, "You brat, I'll remember this. You dare to hit me? I, Lin Kuan, will make sure you don't even know how you died." Seeing the scene of Lin Kuan overthrowing Lin Ruoxi, Yang Cheng's heart felt as if it was being twisted. No matter how cold this woman was, she was still his legal wife in name. Involuntarily, a violent emotion arose. Yang Cheng's face was extremely calm, but the corners of his mouth rose, revealing a contemptuous smile. "I'll only say this once, I'm a person who rarely causes trouble. I don't know what happened between you and my wife, and I don't care to know. But I have a principle: I hate being threatened the most." Just as he finished speaking, before Lin Kuan could react, a palm slapped Lin Kuan's left cheek with lightning speed. "Pa!" After a crisp sound, the living room returned to silence. But Lin Kuan, who was still standing just a moment ago, was really slapped to the ground and fainted. Son-in-law, this. Mother Wang was dumbfounded. She didn't think too much about why Yang Cheng's palm strength was so ridiculously strong. What should we do? Look at this. As for Lin Ruoxi, she had already fallen into Mother Wang's arms with lifeless eyes. Everything in front of her seemed indifferent. Yang Qing smiled indifferently. "Mother Wang, you take care of Ruoxi. Leave this stupid pig to me." With that, Yang Qing easily lifted Lin Kuan, who was on the ground, and leisurely walked out of the main door. After walking for a distance, he arrived at the public rubbish bin and threw Lin Kuan's body inside. He also conveniently closed the metal lid of the bin. Chapter 17. When he returned to the house, Mother Wang was making tea for Lin Ruoxi to calm her nerves. When she saw Yang Qing walk in, she tactfully chose to leave and let the young couple talk alone. Lin Ruoxi's hair that was tied up high was let down. Her soft long hair made her beautiful face look especially tender and beautiful, but her pale and tired face made people feel pity for her. Seeing Yang Qing walk in, Lin Ruoxi raised her head with a complicated expression. She didn't ask Yang Qing how he dealt with Lin Kuan, but only laughed bitterly with a bit of self-mockery. "I've been seen as a joke by you. That's right, I have such a father, I have such a laughable family. Do you think I'm very pitiful and pity me? I don't need anyone's cheap and senseless pity, especially yours. Who said I pity you? Yang Qing sneered, took out a cigarette from his pocket, lit it up, and took a drag in enjoyment. You're not allowed to smoke in front of me. Lin Ruoshi frowned, and unhappily used her hand to disperse the smoke in front of her. Yang Qing turned a deaf ear to her, and laid down on a large sofa to the side. He raised his head and smoked as he said, I just want to advise you, don't put on such a pitiful look in front of me. At least you know who your parents are, and you've received the love of your elders. Although your home isn't very warm, you have a home. Moreover, you're born beautiful, and you're the center of attention everywhere. You've never had to worry about food or clothing since you were young, and you have a mansion, a sports car, and everything else. You can't possibly understand who your parents are, or where your home is, and what it feels like to have nothing. The sudden words stunned Lin Ruoshi. For the first time, Lin Ruoshi looked into Yang Qing's eyes. That pair of deep eyes revealed sadness and loneliness, causing Lin Ruoshi's heart to involuntarily contract. Yang Qing didn't stop, and spoke as if he was talking to himself. I've been alone since I was young. When I was hungry, when I was frozen, when I was bullied, when I was beaten, I was always alone. I had no parents, no family, no brothers and sisters, and even no friends. In order to survive, I would risk my life for a rotten flatbread. In order to fill my stomach, I would eat grass and tree bark until my stomach bled. No one would care about your life or death, no one would sympathize with you, because you're just a lowly life abandoned by this world. Even a dog raised by someone else has a much higher status than you. Listening to the man's low and hoarse narration, Lin Ruoshi's eyes reddened again, but not for herself, but for that lowly life. I'm sorry. Lin Ruoshi lowered her head and whispered, I didn't know you had such a hard time when you were young. Yang Qing lowered his head and gradually revealed his usual carefree smile. Good wife, I made it up, and you believed it. You. Lin Ruoshi raised her head. She was feeling sorry for her, but this scoundrel actually said that it was all made up. She immediately became angry. How can you be like this? Look at you. You're much more beautiful when you're angry than when you're crying. Yang Qing praised. Lin Ruoshi felt warm in her heart. She understood that Yang Qing was trying to divert her attention so that she wouldn't be sad anymore. However, she couldn't say anything to thank him. She just glanced at Yang Qing as if nothing had happened. Since you're lying to me, then where are your parents? Although we agreed to get married, if your parents suddenly appear, it's very possible that everything will be disrupted. Yang Qing pinched the cigarette but with 2 fingers and smiled faintly. I didn't lie to you just now. I really don't know who my parents are. I was separated from my family before I was 5 years old. The only name I remember is my name. I'm an orphan. Hearing Yang Qing casually say that he was an orphan, Lin Ruoshi's heart felt sour. She suddenly wanted to comfort him, but she didn't know how to open her mouth. After struggling for a while, she could only nod and no longer speak. The two were silent for a while. Lin Ruoshi then said, Yang Qing, there are some things I want to make clear to you. After all, you signed an agreement with me, so you have the right to know the cause of the matter. Yang Qing frowned and said, You mean your stupid pig father forced you to get married? You're not allowed to say that my father is a stupid pig. Lin Ruoshi was a little annoyed. If he is a pig, then I'm also a pig. My little Ruoshi is so beautiful. Even if she was a pig, she would be a little pink pig. You're the pig. Lin Ruoshi rolled her eyes, but she wasn't really angry. She returned to the topic and said, My father has 30% of the company's shares. He is the second largest shareholder after me, but that's not the point. After all, my grandmother gave me 60% of the company's shares before she passed away. I have absolute power. But my father also has the title deed of an old house. Is that old house very important to you? Yang Qing was puzzled. Very important. Lin Ruashi's eyes showed a bit of nostalgia and happiness. When I was a child, only my grandmother and mother accompanied me. I grew up there. My mother and father had a marriage based on money and benefit. My father doesn't love my mother. He is a playboy, until now. At this point, Lin Ruashi's eyes showed a bit of hatred. Although he doesn't come home all day long, he is the owner of the house. Since my grandmother passed away, he doesn't allow me to go home. Also, because I spend most of my money outside, he is ready to sell that house. What does this have to do with our marriage? Yang Qing was puzzled. Lin Ruashi coldly rolled her eyes at Yang Qing. I want to take back that old house from him, but he won't give it to me. I offer a higher price than the market price, but he still won't sell it to me. He only has one condition, and that is for me to marry the young master of the Su family. He clearly received benefits from the Su family. I want to force my daughter to marry and use coercion. I don't think he is a stupid pig. A pig is cuter than him. Yang Qing seriously shook his head. Lin Ruashi ignored Yang Qing's sigh and continued. The Su family's Su Jihong has been pestering me, and I can't go against the Su family too much. After all, the Su family is one of the top 5 families in Zhonghai. We can't afford to offend them, so you want to marry me and get rid of that Su brat's thoughts. First pass this hurdle, then think of a way to take back the property in your stupid pig father's hands? Yes. Lin Ruashi nodded tiredly. Recently, she was also very busy with these things. A young girl in her 20s, the burden on her body was as heavy as 1,000 caddies. Yang Qing sighed. Sigh, this method of yours is only treating the symptoms but not the root cause. In the end, you still have to face the pressure of the Su family and your father, that thing that is not a thing. I don't care so much. One step at a time is one step at a time. Although her voice was very soft, Lin Ruashi's tone was incomparably firm. Yang Qing stood up, picked up his new phone, and silently walked out the door. Lin Ruashi frowned. Where are you going? To a bar, to find a woman. Yang Qing turned around and said with a serious face. Chapter 18. During the day, the bar street seemed especially deserted. There were only 2 or 3 cats and puppies wandering on the street. There weren't many people or cars. It was a stark contrast to the hustle and bustle of the night. After Yang Qing pushed open the door of Qiangwei Bar, he greeted the bartender, Xiao Zhao, who was dozing off at the door. He then walked towards the back of the bar. When the waiters in the bar saw Yang Qing come in, they didn't stop him. They all respectfully greeted Yang Qing. They clearly knew that Yang Qing and Qiangwei's relationship wasn't ordinary. The back of the bar was surprisingly long. It was more than 50 meters long. At the end, there were 2 tall men in suits. They were guarding a beautiful wooden door 3 meters away from them. When the 2 men saw that the person who came was Yang Qing, they immediately bowed in unison and made an inviting gesture. Yang Qing nodded. He walked forward and pushed open the flower-carved wooden door. A natural fragrance greeted him from inside. It carried a hint of lavender. This was a surprisingly large room. It had a clean brown wooden floor and black marble walls. In the middle of the room, there was a large cowhide bed that was more than 7 feet wide. The coffee-colored decorations made the room seem a bit dark and charming. It revealed a bit of low-key elegance. One side of the room was blocked by a glass door. Outside the glass door was an open-air swimming pool and a small garden. It was hard to imagine that behind a noisy bar, there was such a quiet harbor. This was Qiangwei's home. As soon as he stepped through the door, Yang Qing subconsciously felt a chill. At the same time, without hesitation, Yang Qing raised his right hand to block. Whoosh! A sharp sound cut through the air. A white hand holding a sharp dagger suddenly appeared 3 inches away from Yang Qing's cheek. It was blocked perfectly. After his sneak attack was blocked, the dagger in his hand spun in an instant. His movements were almost like flowing water, and he stabbed at Yang Qing's ribs again. Unhurriedly, Yang Qing placed his hand on the warm arm and gently gripped it, exerting force outwards. The arm holding the dagger could no longer get close to Yang Qing's body. The assailant realized that he was no match for Yang Qing in terms of strength, so he lifted his calf and kicked at the back of Yang Qing's waist. However, he did not expect that Yang Qing had already seen through all his move. He moved the arm holding the dagger downwards. Before he could even raise his calf, the dagger had already become a sharp weapon that blocked his path. "I'm not playing anymore." Qiang Wei pouted angrily and threw the dagger on the ground. "It's like this every time. I really don't know how a monster like you trained. You're younger than me, but your skills are too abnormal." Yang Qing let go of Qiang Wei's smooth arm. That delicate touch made him reluctant to part with it. He turned around and said with a faint smile, "Not bad. Compared to a month ago, your speed is a little faster. Your improvement is already very fast. But in front of you, I still can't withstand a single blow." Qiang Wei rolled her eyes at Yang Qing and gracefully sat on the big bed. Because it was in her own room, Qiang Wei was dressed very casually. She wore a white lace silk nightgown, which was loose and covered her seductive and charming body. The V-shaped neckline of her chest was propped up by her plump twin peak. From the gap, a black tulle hollowed-out bra could be seen. It was difficult to cover the two large balls of pink flesh. The lower half of the nightgown was surprisingly short. It only wrapped around her round and perky buttocks. Her white and pink thighs were not stingy at all. They were glistening like ivory. Yang Qing's eyes involuntarily drifted to the gap between Qiang Wei's thighs. The alluring spring rippled there. It was actually also a black tulle panty. Vaguely, a few strands of black grass came into view. Qiang Wei's eyes revealed a bit of pride. Although for some reason, this man that she had fallen in love with didn't want to get too close to her, it seemed that he didn't have any resistance to her body. While secretly delighted in her heart, she boldly threw a sexy coquettish glance. Her watery eyes could hook a person's soul away. "Yang Qing, is sister beautiful, beautiful?" Yang Qing swallowed his saliva. He felt that his little brother was already completely valiant and high-spirited. Did God make a mistake? Did this woman come from hell? Didn't they say that only devils have this kind of body? "Do you want to touch?" Qiang Wei blinked. She slowly pulled open the collar of her blouse with one hand, revealing the white and tender skin of her chest. Her pair of beautiful legs slightly loosened, making the hazy beauty at the base of her thighs clearer. Yang Qing inhaled a mouthful of cold air. Although he had seen his fair share of beauties, and his wife Lin Ruoshi's face was even more tragically beautiful, the rose in front of him, although her looks weren't as good, was still a first-class beauty. Not only was she charming, her body was also like a ripe peach. At this moment, Qiang Wei was like a fragrant red rose. The sweet flower juice made people dizzy. Yang Qing slowly approached until he was in front of Qiang Wei. He slowly bent down and stared at Qiang Wei's electric and charming peach blossom eyes. Suddenly, he smiled naughtily. "Sister Qiang Wei, I really want to touch it. But if I touch it, you won't take a dagger and chop off my palm, right? Can I chop it?" Qiang Wei exhaled. "You are too tempting. My bones are all soft. Maybe I really won't have any strength at that time." "Then do you want to try?" Qiang Wei licked her cherry lips with her lilac tongue. Her tone was coquettish and flirtatious. Yang Qing took a deep breath of Qiang Wei's aphrodisiac body fragrance. His eyes became especially clear. "Is there anything you need me to do for you?" As soon as his voice fell, Qiang Wei's beautiful eyes, which were overflowing with amorous feelings, suddenly lost their luster. Instead, they revealed a bit of disappointment, depression, pain, resentment. The mixed feelings made Qiang Wei suddenly laugh foolishly. "Hee hee, Yang Qing, so that's how you see me, how I see you?" Yang Qing said with a playful smile. "Do you think that the reason why I keep seducing you to bed is because I want to use your strength to achieve my goal?" Qiang Wei said without hesitation. That's right, your strength is terrifyingly strong. I've never seen anyone like you who can give me the concept of invincibility. As Qiangwei said this, she pulled up her collar. Covering the beautiful skin that was revealed, she looked straight at Yang Qing and said softly, "Similarly, I really need you. Even though my Red Thorn Society and my father's West Union Society seem to be the two biggest gangs in the West District, but my Red Thorn Society is still too young. If we were to really fight, West Union Society might lose a portion of their members, but our Red Thorn Society would definitely be reduced to ashes." Speaking up to here, Qiangwei's charming face revealed a bit of coldness. "Yang Qing, do you remember the first night we met? That night I was ambushed. The people around me were all killed. I was running for my life alone on the street." Yang Qing listened quietly. He nodded slightly. In his mind, the scene at that time gradually appeared. Chapter 19. In the wee hours of the morning, only a crescent moon hung in the horizon, but right now the crescent moon appeared scarlet. On a secluded street in the Western District, a disheveled figure suddenly jumped out of an alley. She was wearing a leather coat that tightly outlined her perfect curve. Her arm had been cut in a few places, and dark red blood flowed out. A cold dagger was tightly grasped in her hand. Under the moonlight it appeared sinister and bright, and the remaining blood proved that it had just cut through someone's flesh. "Miss, no need to run any more." A deep voice came from a warehouse in front of the woman. The woman immediately stopped her dashing footsteps, and vigilantly looked at the several figures walking out. There were at least 10 people. The man in the lead had a bandage wrapped around his head, a rough face, wearing a large black coat, and playing with a domestic-made Type 37 pistol in his hand. He unhurriedly blocked the road in front of her. "Missy, your skills are indeed terrifying. Your bullets never miss. You single-handedly killed over 30 of our brothers and still managed to escape to this place." The man's cold and emotionless voice slowly said, "However, Missy, we've spent a lot of effort to set up an ambush for you today. We've already expected this. We waited until you ran out of guns and bullets, then we came out. Black Bear, I treated you well in the past. Why do you insist on coming with my father to deal with me?" The woman tenderly gasped. After continuously killing over 10 enemies, her own subordinates were all dead, and she was also already an arrow at the end of its flight. The man codenamed Black Bear laughed a few times. "Miss, no matter what happened between you and the gang leader, this life of mine, Black Bear, was given by the gang leader, so naturally I will serve the gang leader. Miss treated me well in the past, but ever since Miss left the West Union Society and established the Red Thorn Society, Miss has become the gang leader's enemy. So, naturally you are my enemy, there is no friendship to speak of. My father acts in an arbitrary manner, and his business dealings are utterly devoid of conscience. Even the underworld is ashamed of him, not to mention that he doesn't treat all of you well. In his eyes, all of you are just his lackeys. So many elders and brothers are willing to follow me out, so why are you so stubborn?" The woman knew that she no longer had the strength to resist the bullets of more than 10 people. She could only try to persuade them one last time. Black Bear shook his head, his expression still indifferent. "Miss, before I send you off, I'll give you a word. The underworld can be inhumane, but it has to be righteous." As soon as he finished speaking, Black Bear pointed his finger forward, and more than 10 men in black behind him raised their submachine guns at the same time, aiming at the woman 10 meters away. At the moment of life and death, just as all the gunners were about to pull the trigger, a magnetic male voice that sounded like a ghost appeared in everyone's ears. "Hey, bro, it's fine if you guys disturb me from looking at the moon, but don't tell me that you guys are really planning to shoot a woman with a gun? Men are not allowed to use anything other than the gun below. Look how beautiful she is." His words were filled with regret. "Who is it?" Black Bear looked around vigilantly, but did not find a single person. The woman who was originally waiting to die suddenly widened her beautiful eyes and looked at the sky in front of her in disbelief. A figure descended from the sky and appeared in front of more than 10 gunners like a ghost. It was like the vampires in European mythology, quietly opening their huge black bat wings and extending their sharp claws and teeth in the enchanting moonlight night. This was a young man with a somewhat lazy face. His face had a bit of ridicule and a bit of curiosity, but more than that it was disdain. Black Bear did not like this kind of look, but there was a trace of fear in his bones. "Who are you?" The young man did not answer, but turned his head and asked the woman in a relaxed manner, "If I help you get rid of them, can you promise me one thing?" "Yes, it can be anything." The woman's pale face due to blood loss was now red. She could think of anything that a man wanted to do after saving a woman, including offering her body, but she had no other choice at this moment. Even she herself did not know why she believed that a strange unarmed man could save her fragile life under the muzzle of more than 10 guns. "No matter who you are, you must die." Black Bear was angry. He hated being ignored. He was the first to point his gun at the man. Bang! The moment the muzzle of the gun burst out, the man disappeared. When he appeared again, one of the man's palms had suddenly covered the top of Black Bear's head, and lightly twisted, "Ka! Ka!" Black Bear fell to the ground softly, his eyes wide open in anger, full of disbelief and unwillingness. He did not have time to react at all, and his neck was twisted. All the men in black with guns were scared silly. One of the best in the gang, Black Bear from the underground black boxing market, actually died inexplicably when the gun was fired. What did this stupid bear say just now? "Alright. I'll give you guys a word of advice. Things like bullets are only effective against the weak." As soon as the man finished speaking, his body once again turned into a shadow, shuttling in the middle of more than 10 men in the darkness. Every time he got close to one of them, he would reach out and strike. His hand would either smack the head or strangle the throat or hit the chest. All the men who were hit instantly fell to the ground and could not get up. The woman who saw this scene from not far away could only understand with difficulty when those thugs died. They were all instantly killed by such inhumane killing methods as smashing their heads, breaking their necks, and shattering their internal organs. If it was said that when this man first appeared in the woman's mind, he was a hero who saved a beauty. But now, in her eyes, this man was simply a god of death. Yes, she was saved by a man who was like a god of death, and she even promised him that she would accept his request. In fact, what the woman was thinking at this moment was that even if she did not promise him in advance, she would not be able to resist him at all. A person could say no to another person, but she could not say no to a god. After ending this battle that had no suspense in a single breath, the young man clapped his hands and slowly walked in front of the woman. Under the moonlight, he revealed a toothy smile, as if he didn't feel the slightest bit uncomfortable from the slaughter just now. "I'm called Yang Chen. What's your name, beautiful?" "Jiangwei." Jiangwei was a little absent-minded. "Jiangwei. Good name." Yang Qing laughed and touched the back of his head in embarrassment. "That? Miss Jiangwei, I'll tell you my request. Please. Please say." Jiangwei lowered her head, prepared to be trampled on, but her heart could not help but beat faster. Yang Qing said seriously, "Miss Jiangwei, I hope you won't tell anyone about what happened today. I don't want to get into trouble with your gang, please, please?" "He's asking me to please?" Jiangwei raised her head in shock. At this moment, it was as if everything in the world had frozen, only the man's awkward smile in front of her, a trace of sincerity, a trace of gentleness. Chapter 20. Some memories, no matter how long it has been, would be hard to forget. It was like the new air hong, no matter how many years had passed, it would still be fragrant. The first meeting between Jiangwei and Yang Qing was bloody and full of drama. After Jiangwei slowly narrated this memory with a faint feminine voice, it made Yang Qing a little absent-minded. Half a year ago, the two of them got to know each other because of this accidental rescue and being rescued. Then, in this half a year, they would communicate from time to time, which led to this subtle relationship today. Some distance, some ambiguity, and some excitement. Chiang Wei combed her smooth black hair, sat on the bed holding her knees, and smiled a little intoxicated. Yang Qing, do you know what I was thinking when you didn't appear? What? I was thinking about the fairy tales my mother told me when I was a child. In the story, when a weak princess was being persecuted by a bad guy or a devil, there would always be a Prince Charming who would appear and save the princess from the abyss of suffering. Then, the end of the story would definitely be the sentence, from then on, the prince and the princess would live a happy life. I used to think that it was such a boring and ridiculous sentence, but you made it all come true. Chiang Wei's eyes showed a bit of excitement as she looked at Yang Qing affectionately. Yang Qing touched his nose. I didn't expect you to have such a sentimental and childish side. Hee. Chiang Wei chuckled. How do I say this? I know, I'm not a princess, and you won't be a Prince Charming. Well, you don't look like a Prince Charming either. You don't even have a horse, and you just fell from the sky without anyone noticing. However, at that time, I felt that all of this wasn't that important anymore. I only thought that if there was such a person by my side in the future, he wouldn't need to guard me all day and make me happy all day. As long as he could support me when I couldn't go on, and when I was sad, he would give me a chest to lean on, so that I wouldn't be so helpless and lonely, that would be enough. Chiang Wei. Yang Qing reached out his hand and caressed the woman's delicate and moist cheek. To tell you the truth, I'm not a good man. In the past, I've had sex with at least 800 women, if not 1,000. You also said that what you need is not a strong helper. With your qualifications, perhaps it would be better to find an honest and reliable man who is devoted to you. That's impossible. Chiang Wei's eyes revealed a hint of mischief. Yang Qing, do you know the relationship between the monkey group and the Monkey King? Monkeys? Monkey King? Yang Qing asked doubtfully, what do you want to say? The Monkey King of a monkey group is the strongest male in the entire group, and all the female monkeys in the group will become the Monkey King's mating partner. This is the instinct of the monkeys. The female monkeys pursue the strong, so that their offspring will also have stronger genes. So when they see the strongest Monkey King, they can't tolerate other male monkeys in their eyes. Actually, what's the difference in human society? From the ancient emperors to the current powerful men, the reason why they have a large group of wives and concubines can't be ruled out that they are forced, but those women who follow them, who can say that they are absolutely forced? Since there is the best, why would they choose the second best? Yang Qing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. So you're saying that we've become monkeys? I'm just giving an example. I just want to tell you that from the first time we met, there will be no one else in my eyes in this life. Maybe you won't be the strongest in the world, but in my heart, you are the strongest. Chiang Wei's gaze gradually became firm, and she looked straight at Yang Qing. I love you, Yang Qing. After staying silent for more than half a minute, the smile on Yang Qing's face gradually became wider, and he said with some relief and some playfulness, You're really a stupid woman. Chiang Wei's beautiful face that was incomparably perturbed just now revealed a joyful expression. She shook her head and said, So what if I'm a stupid woman? I don't regret it. Do you know what I originally wanted to do today? Yang Qing's gaze looked up and down, as if he wanted to peep into the scenery under Chiang Wei's nightgown. Although Chiang Wei was already fully prepared, at this moment, when she was sized up by Yang Qing's undisguised presumptuous gaze, she still blushed and her heartbeat quickened. She revealed a rare shyness. You? What do you want to do? Yang Qing slowly moved closer to Chiang Wei's beautiful little earring, and used his teeth to gently bite the tender pink flesh. Chiang Wei felt as if an electric current had passed through her body, and she weakly leaned against Yang Qing's chest, panting delicately. Today I'm here to eat you, pink and tender female monkey. Without waiting for Rose to react, Yang Qing let out a deep roar that he had been suppressing for a long time. fiercely hugging Rose's small waist. He threw this delicate body that was soft to the bones onto the center of the bed. Qiangwei was frightened by the sudden happiness. She closed her eyes and let Yang Qing touch, knead, kiss, and suck on her body. Her two small hands tightly grasped the towel blanket on the bed. The soft silk nightgown was pulled away from the body by the slightly rough big hands. Her snow-white skin was exposed to the air, exuding a scorching charm. As if he didn't want to let go of every inch of her skin, Yang Cheng's fiery kisses started from the small and exquisite navel, along the smooth abdomen, and all the way up. Without hesitation, he pushed open the black muslin bra that seemed to be nothing, and kept sucking and biting the 2 lumps of pink flesh that were above D cup in his mouth. Perhaps it was because he hadn't enjoyed such a mature and charming female body in a sober state for a long time. Yang Qing felt that his blood was already boiling uncontrollably. So fragrant, Qiangwei, who usually took the initiative, was shy and bashful like a young girl who just had her first awakening of love. When she heard such explicit praise, her cheeks became even redder, and she couldn't make any response. Finally, when Yang Cheng's lips kissed Qiangwei's cherry lips, 2 wet tongues began to entangle. Qiangwei's sweet juice made it difficult for Yang Qing to give up. He kissed Qiangwei until it was hard for her to breathe, and then he unwillingly kissed somewhere else. Qiangwei was already completely lost in the fiery entanglement for the first time. Her body was soft like it was made of water, and every part of her body had become a sensitive nerve ending. A slight touch would make the swamp that was flooded with lewd water flow even more like a stream. When Yang Qing released all the restraints on their bodies and reached for Qiangwei's mysterious garden with one hand, the overflowing flower dew made Yang Cheng's hormone secretion accelerate again. "Qiangwei babe, so you're so sensitive, the water down there can even be a bath." "Ugh!" Qiangwei couldn't help but turn her head away in embarrassment. She had never encountered such a situation before, and couldn't say anything at this moment. She could only vaguely express her protest. Yang Qing, who couldn't bear it any longer, said no more. He took out his ferocious dragon horn, and fiercely pierced it into Qiangwei's delicate flower bud. Qiangwei felt as if half of her body was being torn apart. That moment of pain was accompanied by happiness after suffering, and it made her shed 2 streams of tears. What followed was wave after wave of impact. For a moment, the temperature in the room rose sharply. The man's heavy breathing and the woman's sweet and sorrowful voice intertwined. Chapter 21. After almost an hour, the man and woman who had been rolling on the bed for a long time finally stopped. Using a blanket to cover the mess on the bed, they snuggled up together. Qiangwei seemed to have not yet recovered from her orgasm, her whole body softly leaning against Yang Cheng's chest, the 2 lumps of heavy breast flesh squeezing together. It was quite an erotic scene. The woman who had been moisturized by the rain and dew appeared especially enchanting, one claw lightly scratching Yang Cheng's sturdy chest. She somewhat coquettishly said, "Turns out doing this kind of thing is so tiring, it's better not to do it in the future. Up to you." Yang Qing embraced the fragrant shoulder of the beauty in his embrace, saying with an evil smile, "If you don't do it, I can still find another woman to do it. You have no conscience, you just finished tormenting me and you mention another woman." Qiangwei didn't know whether to laugh or cry as she slapped Yang Cheng's palm, but immediately afterwards her eyes revealed curiosity as she asked, "Oh right, you didn't really come here today just to think about that, right?" Yang Qing reached out a hand and pinched Qiangwei's soft cheek. "You can say yes, you can also say no." "What do you mean?" Qiangwei believed herself to be very smart, but she had never figured out what kind of things were in the mind of her beloved man. Yang Qing crawled up from the bed, rummaged through his pants and fished out that pack of cheap cigarettes, lit one up, and blew out a few smoke rings in enjoyment. Only then did he say with a relaxed and contented smile, "The reason why I said yes is because you really did attract me. And I've long wanted to eat up this little fat sheep that delivered itself to my doorstep, but you also know, because your background is a bit troublesome, Eating you is equal to breaking my normal leisurely days. So, all along, I could only stare and not move my mouth. Jiang Wei somewhat gloomily nodded. I know, you are not willing to participate in the struggle of the Western region's gangs, and I am also the president of the Red Thorns Society. Being together with me is equal to going against the entire West Union Society. Of course you wouldn't accept me, but now. Don't tell me you're planning to. Seeing Jiang Wei's hesitant expression, Yang Qing chuckled. You don't need to think too much, that's right. Because of some unconventional reasons, I'm quite disgusted with your dad's West Union Society. Or, it should be said that some people in the West Union Society are giving me a headache. I feel that rather than hiding, why not make the entire West District your territory? That way, although it would take a bit of effort, and there might be a lot of miscellaneous small side effects, but… Speaking till here, Yang Chen once again greedily swept a glance at Rose's lazy and beautiful body, licked his lips and said, But, since I can get rid of those annoying little demons, and also eat a stupid woman like you without worries, why wouldn't I be happy? Being called, stupid woman, by her lover, Jiang Wei couldn't help but roll her eyes. So that's the reason, looks like you came here today to collect a deposit. After knowing Yang Cheng's goal, Jiang Wei didn't ask Yang Qing what he wanted to do, and didn't feel much worry for Yang Qing. The current Jiang Wei had already determined that the confrontation between the two gangs in the West District was about to end. This was also the reason why Yang Qing truly liked this woman. If it was only because of her beauty, then Jiang Wei would be the same as the other women he had played with. After sleeping with them they would no longer have any relations. But Jiang Wei was clearly a woman who knew how to make a man happy. She firmly believed in Yang Cheng's strength. If Yang Qing didn't want to say it, she wouldn't force him to ask. If Yang Qing wanted to keep her in suspense, she would cooperate and act like she wanted to hear it. When Yang Qing didn't come to see her, she wouldn't disturb Yang Qing for no reason, and would only wait for him in a quiet place. When Yang Qing came to see her, she would pour her fiery emotions onto Yang Qing, letting the man know how much she missed him. The more Jiang Wei stayed in her place, without any desires, the harder it was for Yang Qing to part with her. Actually, Yang Qing himself also thought that Chen Feng's matter was just an excuse to convince himself, if this continued, even if West Union Society didn't provoke him, he would still destroy them for a confidant like Jiang Wei. After the two hugged and kissed for a while, the sky outside had already darkened, and the lights of the city gradually brightened. Yang Qing saw that it was about time, and no longer dilly-dallying. He got up and began to put on his clothes. Jiang Wei wanted to get up to help, but just as she was about to stand up, the pain in her crotch made her frown. She bit her lips and rebuked. It's all your fault, it's all swollen. Yang Qing smiled a little awkwardly. I saw that you didn't bleed, so I thought it was fine. Could it be that this is your first time? Jiang Wei was so angry that her pretty face turned white. That membrane of mine was accidentally broken when I was a child. What, do you think I'm a loose woman? No, no, no. Yang Qing hurriedly smiled apologetically. My darling Jiang Wei, I just thought that you would settle your own needs on a daily basis. You're so tight that I can't pull it out. How can you be a loose woman? Hee hee. Hearing Yang Qing's explicit and shameful words, Jiang Wei was both amused and annoyed, and simply burrowed her head into the quilt, no longer looking at Yang Qing. Yang Qing pulled up his pants with a rippling smile, and when he was about to walk out the door, he suddenly seemed to remember something, and asked, Jiang Wei baby, my wife wants me to find a job. It has to be a good working environment. I want to choose a leisurely job, but I'm not familiar with those companies in Zhonghai. Which company do you think I should apply for? Your wife? Jiang Wei quickly poked her head out, and a pair of almond-shaped eyes stared at him. When did you have a wife? Hey, you're a living bodhisattva, always with a straight face. I just got my marriage certificate today. It's not convenient to say the specifics. Anyway, I'm already married. Yang Qing shook his head in distress. Jiang Wei's expression changed rapidly, and in the end there was a bit of resentment. Although I don't want to be the legal wife, you don't have to hit me like this, becoming a mistress so quickly. Don't you want to be the legal wife? Why? Yang Qing asked with some curiosity. Being the legal wife is not suitable for me, after all. I'm a person who lives in the dark. It's impossible for me to appear in public with you all day long, and I don't look like a good wife and loving mother, right, good husband. After saying that, she charmingly rolled her eyes at Yang Qing. You're just a vixen. Yang Qing almost wanted to raise his gun again. After laughing for a while, Jiang Wei didn't seem to care too much about Yang Qing's marriage, and after thinking for a while, she suggested, if you like to look at beauties and have leisure time, then go to Yulei International. It specializes in the fashion industry and cosmetics. In Zhonghai, even in the country, it's considered a big company. I saw on the news that Yulei International's PR department is hiring, and it's not limited to men and women. I heard that a lot of men are rushing to apply. PR department? Men apply? Yang Qing suddenly understood and then asked, then it seems that Yulei International has a lot of beauties? Yes, the pay is good, the benefits are good. More importantly, Yulei International is the company with the most beauties in the whole of Zhonghai. After all, it does fashion and cosmetics. I think this is also what hubby wants. Jiang Wei revealed an expression that said, I still don't understand you. Yang Qing didn't feel embarrassed and nodded with satisfaction. Good suggestion, good suggestion. The salary is not important, the surrounding environment is important. I'll go back and do some research. Tomorrow I'll apply. After waiting for a long time after Yang Qing walked out of the room, Jiang Wei, who was lying on the bed, looked at the closed door and let out a soft sigh. But what Jiang Wei didn't know was that not long after Yang Qing walked out, he also patted his chest and lightly said as if relieved, that was close. Having a mistress is really scary.